People just don't think big enough.
Welcome to a Swine Brothers special talking about a. Well, what are we talking about, Jim?
We're talking about people trying to shut down fucking death metal once more, just like they did in the satanic baby killer panic. Well, it made
Yes.
me a satanic baby killer just because I listen to metal.
Only much more subtly now.
It was like weird because this one video popped up not that long ago. Gamers are culture war test subjects. Speech policing escalates. It's by this guy named Tin Pool. He tries to be a bit more, centered on his shit. I watched this a little bit ago, and then an article pops up where we got fucking a death metal label is shut down because PayPal credit processors pull out due to Department of Justice FDIC initiative. And as I go over this, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you sit here and you look at the whole entire culture war aspect here. We got fucking, just went over the other day about fucking PewDiePie getting like railroaded again, but I guess this is just more of the things that just build up to say, look, we're going to try chipping away so he's not so big. I mean, hell, we also got the fucking Patreon purge, which I asked to be put in the fucking title here. That's, the Sargon of Akkad fucking got booted off of Patreon for shady reasons. And as you go through the text, it says, well, we had there's a lot of non-answers through the text that were given whenever people were contacting Patreon. But one of the things that stuck out was like they let it slip that a credit processor pressured them, but no, this was entirely our thing. Well, yeah, if a credit processor is pressuring you, that credit processor happens to be, at the behest of DOJ, the U.S. Department of Justice, trying to pull you because you're now a terrorist, you're really not able to just divulge that you can do that, that they're the ones pulling the strings. Otherwise, you're the one going to get sanctioned by these people because you're not playing ball in the political field.
Yeah, it's a very long and complicated daisy chain, but this is something that the government's been trying to do for what, 32 years now?
I mean, hell, we have the satanic ritual abuse scare. Anyone remember that from the 1980s, early 90s? I do. That's when I became a satanic baby killer. Go ahead, fucking check it out, kids. It's real fun.
Anyone remember Pat Buchanan's culture war, the PMRC, attacks on hip hop and heavy metal?
It's all pretty much the same damn thing.
Except
like
they've gotten.
Society's got to stick up its ass. This is too ugly. It's too cliche. Let's push it aside. Remember, they like to fucking censor those video games, taking those anime nipples out of it just because the girl's of questionable age. Fuck. Go ahead and fucking watch an anime toddler as long as you're not raping a real toddler. I don't give a shit.
Except they've gotten sort of smarter about it, whereas rather than making it a public thing where they're, holding hearings and getting them, getting the government humiliated, they're just doing it under,
They're, instead of doing the old way, like they did here with Jello Biafra. He was put to trial for obscenity charges.
There was a poster in the Frankenchrist album cover, which was a painting by H.R. Giger, which showed penises having sex with vaginas.
Wow.
Which is, a metaphor on how society screws itself in more ways than one. At least that's how he saw it. So the story goes, a kid brought the album home for her brother, and for some reason they didn't open it at Christmas. They opened it early, and for some reason, once they saw the picture, rather than taking the record back to the store, they went straight to the LA district attorney. And the city attorney said, and I have audio of this, we feel this is a cost-effective way of sending a message that we are going to prosecute. In other words, they picked a small independent label, a small band who would have to pay out of pocket in order to defend themselves, rather than Ozzy or Prince or one of their big targets.
Yeah, well, let's just go over this real quick. Tales from the Trial. Off of Dave's Strange World. Looks like a blog. But, this is someone that at least has a little blurb on it, okay? From Joe Biafra's 1989 spoken word album, High Priest of Harmful Matter, comes this monologue about Frankenchrist, the trial from 1987. Frankenchrist was a 1985 album released by the legendary punk rock group The Dead Kennedys, Biafra's band at the time. And the album infamously included a poster that featured H.R. Giger's painting Penis Landscape.
Yep.
Never mind that a sticker on the album cover contained a warning label about the poster. Biafra and others were brought up on criminal charges for distributing harmful matter to minors. Keep in mind, this is 85. Pornography is legal. You got fucking Playboy, Hustler, and a million other mags on the shelves.
Yes, but this is right when the
Satanic
Jimmy
Baby
Swaggart, of all people, actually sent a letter to, I think it was Walmart, saying, take all Playboy and 7-Eleven as well, take all Playboy and even Cream magazine off of and even Tiger Beat off of these stores, or we're going to prosecute. Walmart and 7-Eleven caved in. So this is sort of when you started cracking down on the porn thing.
And keep in mind, the left's been trying to crack down on porn because it oppresses the women's. So that's today. It's just flip the coin. Who the hell wants it? Any argument to shut it down. Because it perverts our minds in one way or fucking oppresses people in another. I don't know.
It's and there's a whole thing about appealing to the prurient interest, which means if you want to beat off to it, it's illegal. Google that painting and tell me if it's attractive. I've heard it's very disgusting.
It is. I've seen it before. I had it on my wall.
Yeah, it's not.
That's exactly why I had it on my wall, because I like disturbing shit on my wall. It's like, God, I can understand we had like naked chicks on your wall, but that, yes, it's disturbing, isn't it?
Yes, that's yeah. So there was a whole, and my point really quick, and then we'll get back to the thing was, rather than embarrass themselves because the PMRC did embarrass themselves by having this go so public. Now they're just doing it quietly.
Mm-hmm. By saying, oh, that might be a terrorist. They're at risk. Let's get fucking Carl Benjamin's shit pulled. He might be a terrorist. He's high risk for attracting those damn right-wing bigots. He's not right-wing. He just floats where the political winds take him for fame and glory.
Yes.
Or he makes some good points every now and then, and other times it's like, yeah, it just seems like you're going wherever.
Well, yeah, he's out to inflate the name of Sargon.
Yeah. You make a few good points, fine. But then you start going off the rails. Okay. Meanwhile, we're nothing but going off the rails. We have nothing to lose.
No, I've always, yeah, we have zero to lose.
What the prosecution hoped for was for Biafra, an artist on an independent label, to plead guilty so a legal precedent would be set.
Yep.
The prosecution actually admitted that going after Biafra was a cost-effective way to send a message to all those naughty musicians and fucking disturbing painters and all this other shit. Fuck art, fuck video games, fuck everything. We just want it our way to send the message. So if we cut off everyone's ability to do banking, period, so they can't pay any bills, it sends the message that you shouldn't talk this way.
Well, also a cost-effective way, because think about it. If they went after Prince or Ozzy or Judas Priest or one of their the big evil ones, they have major label backing. They would have lawyers they would have 20 lawyers, on their case. Jello Biafra got lucky in that a lawyer decided he would take the case for free.
Yeah.
It still cost over $100,000, which was more back then than it is now, and broke up the band. But yeah, so a cost-effective way of sending a message. In other ways, this was a way of testing the waters in order. Well, let's see if we could successfully prosecute this band and set a legal precedent. Then next time Ozzy Osbourne releases an album,
So
then
sit there and think next time gamers are being used as the forefront of the culture war in their little experiments. Remember, metalheads have been used as this for years longer. Fuck, they keep fucking trying to tweak it one way or the other.
yep. And so the next time Ozzy Osbourne releases an album, some hick hit cop from Arkansas. Well, I don't like them goddamn Ozzy Osbourne. This is worshiping the goddamn devil, and then prosecutes. Then the precedent's been set.
Just remember, next time you pick up Grand Theft Auto, same thing could be fucking happening to you.
I mean, it happened years later where a hick judge tried, or hick. I don't like rap at all, but they tried to bust the band Two Live Crew in Florida, I believe, and on obscenity charges, and they did get off. So, and the same, I think there was I want to say a sheriff from Arkansas who said they want to bust people listening to rap and metal and punk in their own homes.
Had that precedent been set, then prosecutors could have gone after bigger games such as Prince or Madonna or anyone else on the fucking filthy 15 PMRC list.
Yep, which most of them are horrible.
Yeah. But Biafra, seeing the big picture and the real reason he was targeted, chose to fight the charges instead. Sadly, his fight was without the help of any major record label, who seriously should have seen the bigger picture as well. But remember, they're fucking corporations, and the bigger the corporation, the more the communists they lean, because the only way you can make money after a certain point is if you got a monopoly.
Well, and also, like I said, if Ozzy was on there, they may have helped Ozzy, but at the same time, this was an independent band, so who cares about if some independent gets charges?
Mm-hmm. And fucking shit. Ugh. It's the same shit over and over again. As well as help Biafra, but they did not. Yes, that's because you don't want to fucking shoot your own food source.
Well, that's because major labels would love for all the homemade records and all the major label or all the independents to go away. They would love for that to happen. They would love for them. They would love for you go into the middle section and your only choices are Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, because that's the music that they want to pander. Maybe some Judas Priest if you're lucky.
Yeah, really. Fighting the charges was expensive and nearly bankrupted Biafra and his record label, but he won. Sort of. The trial resulted in a hung jury.
Which, of course, isn't as good as, say, a unanimous not guilty verdict, because they could always try for a retrial. Fortunately, the judge threw the case out of court.
And the judge chose to dismiss the case after the jury couldn't come to a unanimous decision. And remember, fucking First Amendment is always under attack.
That was
and Dead Kennedys is pretty damn fucking tame.
That was the first time they ever tried to prosecute, I believe, a work of art, a record album, as obscene. They've looked into it before, but there was never any prosecution. They looked into harmful effects of the song Louie Louie and things like that, but they never prosecuted. That was actually a historical trial. Yeah, the Dead Kennedys. I mean, yeah, they're not,
they're not Guar or Gigi Allen.
No, but they were still pretty out there for especially they were
1985. Yeah, kind of.
They were slightly more well known than, say, Gigi Allen.
Yeah.
So Gigi had a theory, by the way, that they just didn't even want to touch him because he was just so out there that it was like, oh, I'm not getting my hands dirty, literally.
Some bizarre footnotes of this trial. Gene Simmons of Kiss wanted to buy Biafra's life rights to make a dramatic film about the trial with Billy Crystal playing Biafra.
Billy Crystal playing Biafra. Simmons and Biafra met once, and Biafra realized he would have no creative control over it and said no.
The prosecutor, Michael Guarino, later admitted it was a mistake to have gone after Biafra and later came together with him on Ira Glass's This American Life to discuss the trial and for Guarino to apologize. Guarino also admitted that his son became a huge Dead Kennedys fan years later and would blast their music to the annoyance of everyone on the street.
He said that we were just a bunch of prima donna prosecutors and that it should have never happened. And the funny thing is, he was so out there back in '87. He said that his favorite artist was Patti Smith, who wasn't very mainstream. And he said that if an album like this, if a poster like this was in her album, it would be fine because she was an artist. But the Dead Kennedys had no talent, therefore it was obscene.
All right. So let's go over the death metal label shuts down after PayPal credit processors and others pull out due to the Department of Justice, the Federal Deposit Insurance Commission.
Yeah, FDIC.
Yeah. A wide sweeping initiative from the United States Department of Justice back in 2013 called Operation Choke Point was initially designed to curb payment processing for terrorist activities, fraudulent purchases, and money laundering. Define terrorist activities. Did they specifically say to stop people from blowing us up, to stop murders?
Well, yes, terrorist activities is such a nice little vague word. It can mean anything that goes against the status quo.
It could mean saying "fuck you" to the president.
It can mean buying buying a demo tape.
Considering this was past the Obama era, I'm surprised it wasn't expanded to mean saying "fuck you" to the president.
As it's now apparently
that would have received a standing ovation from people back then. Yeah. However, according to one record label owner, the banks who have been in the news for demonetizing and deplatforming legitimate businesses over the last few months are doing so at the behest of those overseeing Operation Choke Point.
Yep, this is not good.
It started with a Kotaku in Action thread, which notes that a death metal, black metal record label has shut down in the wake of PayPal pulling out support for processing purchases, along with the creditors at Visa and MasterCard, because the company was labeled as high risk, promoting hatred, promoting violence, and promoting hate speech.
Second oldest black metal band in the black metal label in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And there's no hiding the fact that, yeah, you had some of that NS shit in there, but you also had what? Incantation?
Do you want a list of notable bands?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay. Let me. Goddamn thing that'll load.
In the case of Elegy Records, a label hosted all sorts of death metal since 1996. Their closure comes from the inability to sign with a normal credit processor due to being high risk. We sing about death and mutilation. Well, that's promoting hatred, promoting violence, and promoting hate speech.
Now we have to put this into perspective here. I'm gonna read off a bunch of bands who have releases on Elegy. For those of you who don't know, these are very well known death and black metal bands. Abazagaroth, which is kind of a stupid name, but one of the best U.S. black metal bands. Let's see here. Bloodstorm, which another great band, Crucifier. These are all actually very well known in the metal underground. This is what made LG Records known as Dark Plague, great black metal. This is what made LG Records. I mean, they're a legendary label. Evoken, who released one of the greatest albums of 2018. Hate Forest, another great band. Ibex Throne, Incantation, as you said, who's from near your neck of the woods, right? Judas Iscariot, one of the greatest black metal, underground BM bands. So Maniac Butcher, another great BM band. The Merrimack, these are all very well known bands. Nocturnal Fear.
All right. That's good enough to get a nice little sample there. We'll probably name more as we go. There are also high-risk credit processors, but it's expensive, unreliable, and comes with no guarantees, which makes it unreliable for most normal businesses.
Yes.
Elegy Records owner Rob told the outlet Death Metal Org in a piece published on December 17th, 2018, that PayPal simply said he could no longer use their services following investigation from a website called Metal Sucks. For those of you who are just tuning in this time, Metal Sucks has been one of our fucking punching bags for a long time. I mean, you guys fucking go out there with your fucking Mary Sue and whatever to punch on. Metal Sucks is what the hell we shit on. Oh, God. They have fucking come out and totally 100% said, yo, we are 100% down with Antifa. That's how fucking scumbaggy Metal Sucks is.
Also scumbaggy Metal Sucks is they refuse to use their real names as well. So they're saying all these horrible things, and yet they're hiding. Matt Goldberg and Ben Humanoff are hiding behind fake names of Axl Rosenberg and Vince Neilstein.
Yeah. And, and they fucking love to sit there and say, but this is the alias for that guy. So, they're fine with calling other people up, but they want to hide behind other names.
But they're willing to dox other people and, shame people. And Metal Sucks is a thorn in the side of basically anyone who actually likes metal for the music and not as something to wear to look cool.
It's pretty much the site you go to if everything has to be political. I mean, there are political bands out there. Yes, there are also ones that just sing about random bullshit, which is hilarious. Or awesome, depending upon who the hell's doing it and what the hell the subject's covered.
And everyone's a fascist, basically. They will draw comparisons to things that even
anyone to the right of Stalin, anyone to the right of Stalin.
Yes.
Which is headed by Matt Goldberg and Ben Umanov.
Thank you.
The banks also abruptly cut ties with Rob as well, where he explained, they didn't even have the business courtesy to inform me they were going to cut ties. I came to the realization of this when I went to process an order, and their response message was invalid merchant account. Yeah, I could see where that would be like you just log on to fucking Patreon here and fucking find out, wait a minute, I'm not getting any money. What the fuck? You just, what?
And
when I spoke to a representative, they informed me they did not wish to work with me because I promoted hate. Hatred of all humanity.
Yeah, pretty much.
I did receive a letter from them stating that they were going to end the business relationship. The date of termination was a day before the letter was written and a day before it was mailed. We're going to terminate you 3 days ago.
Yes.
What a great banking service. This was a death blow. At this point, I had no means to accept any form of payments aside from cash or money order, but there was no way to survive in that business model, especially online.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, but especially now.
Yeah. According to Rob, his record label has been classified as high risk by the banks and credit processors, which meant that he was effectively blacklisted from the banking industry. Yep, that's what the government likes to do to you. That's how we protect people from terrorists. And remember, gamers are terrorists. So are metalheads. Enjoy.
Yes, I'm listening to some nice terrorist music at the moment.
In short, this meant that the only way to accept payments from customers was, as he mentioned, via cash or money orders. For online businesses, it's not possible to operate without some sort of banking institution or credit card processing since all purchases are made electronically.
Yeah, 20, 30 years ago, that was the only way to operate a, underground metal label. Was basically you send $5 in the mail and you get a demo or a shirt or a record. But yeah, things have changed so much now that it's not
Yep.
feasible.
This also recently happened to Moribund Records as well, which Death Metal Org reported back on November 4th, 2018. PayPal
Moribund
informed...
Records.
What?
Moribund Records has one of my favorite metal bands of all time, Satan's Host, on their label, by the way.
Yeah.
That's good shit.
PayPal informed Moribund Records that access to their PayPal account would be restricted due to content-related violations. Keep in mind that a guy was banned from Patreon because he used the N-word to describe someone on the right. In other words, he was insulting the people most likely to say nigger by calling them nigger. So in other words, a major insult. But, because context is not necessary, let's just keep going with that. Double down. It's content related. Your brand is what's wrong.
Yep, and Moribund is a much bigger band than Elegy, or much bigger label than Elegy is. So this is actually...
Yeah. The said violations were in relation to the record label publishing satanic death metal.
Not satanic.
Remember the satanic ritual abuse scare of the 1980s and 90s. I'm your happy little satanic baby killer from that era. Hi. Go ahead, ask around Jeanette. You'll hear some people say it.
Deicide, the Christian metal band Deicide, ha ha ha, is on Century Media Records. Century Media is a huge label. I think they're even owned by Sony now.
Yeah.
But Deicide is a satanic death metal band. Whether or not you think the Satanism is real or not is not really the thing. The thing is, publishing satanic... What about Century Media's Nuclear Blast, Metal Blade?
And because it has an affiliation with edgy atheists.
Yes.
That's what the Church of Satan is. It's just edgy atheists.
Oh,
they're not theistic Satanists, which I know a few. There's one hosting the show right there.
Hi.
I'm not a Satanist. I laugh at him at his concepts. Ha ha.
And I laugh at you at your concepts.
Your God is beneath mine.
Yes, and I laugh at your concepts.
Exactly.
But we agree on some things. But it's satanic black metal, death metal band. It's 2019, people.
That's current year. Fuck. Why the hell are we still doing this? Oh, right. The left and right juxtaposed what is evil. Instead of
Yes.
defending these kind of things, now they're attacking it, and the right's like, wait a minute, I gotta protect Satanists now?
I mean, I hate doing the current year thing, but sometimes it sort of needs to be mentioned
Yeah.
that, like, it's 2019 and
We've
people are
had
still
like
afraid of.
50 years.
We've had 30 something years of satanic death metal, and people are still afraid of it, which, I mean, I love personally, but.
Instead of dropping the content, Moribund Records dropped PayPal. However, Elegy Records, Rob, told Death Metal Org that this kind of blacklisting isn't necessarily limited to just PayPal and creditors. According to Rob, this started with the DOJ's Operation Choke Point and has been expanding ever since.
And can I just say, well done to Moribund, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I have to complete well done to Moribund for
Saying fuck you.
I know so many labels who would basically say, well, sorry, you can't be on there, but Moribund said, eat my ass.
Mm-hmm. When the processors would run a check on me and my business, it comes back as high risk and reputational risk. Some of the red flags come back as promoting hate speech, promoting rape, promoting violence, and promoting hatred. Oh, yes, hammer smashed face. Cannibal Corpse classic. Gotta love it.
Entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on Metal Blade, which is distributed by. Who the hell is Metal Blade distributed? Someone. I know they have a major label connection somewhere. What about Guar? Have you seen me?
Have
Baby
you
Raper.
seen me? Oh, yeah. Baby Raper.
I'm headbanging to us making guitar noises.
An absolute atrocious characterization and a very convenient way of fusing music band names titles to an actual call to arms. And remember, they're doing this with video games and pretty much everything else out there too. Anything to say, oh my god, you can't have that release for the Steam. And then they're going to wonder why their heads are on spikes whenever fucking no one has any outlet to fucking vent their rage at society.
Now, Moribund is a bigger label than Elegy. Elegy seems to be one of those, one out of a guy's house deals. Moribund seems a little bit more established. So Moribund can afford to say fuck off to PayPal and things like that. But Elegy's also being shafted by the banks. So that's another big thing.
Mm-hmm. The slightly veiled assertion is one that marks me as one who is inciting these actions. The overlords now wish to control what you see and can sell and what you can purchase. Does that sound familiar to anyone tuning in that's not familiar with this shit we've been posting about or this channel at all?
What we need parental advisory, explicit lyrics on all of the albums we don't happen to like.
Yes, and that way the kids know exactly which albums to buy. Hey, Mom, I'll give you $5 for beer if you buy that album for me. Oh, hell.
Downside.
I can't tell you how many times, back when I was fucking partying and shit, just turned 21, I can't tell you how many times our kids are like, dude, I'll give you $5 to get me a beer. I was going in and buy for underage kids anyway. What's the fuck else am I going to do other than rack up more charges? Let's go.
On the downside of that, though, is also the really conservative parent digs in Johnny's room, finds an Ozzy Osbourne album, which is, as you know, Jim, is tame as hell.
Yeah.
But it has parental advisory explicit lyrics, and they take it back to the store. And if you get enough of that in a conservative ass town, then you're gonna have, you just can't, sing about death anymore. You have to sing about puppies. So there's a downside to that as much as there's an upside to that. I'm glad the downside is overshadowed by the upside, but there was a real fear in the 80s that
the satanic ritual abuse scare was one of the things that was driven by that huge fear. Moral panic for everyone. If it's not Satanists, it's Nazis.
It sounds like a song. Someone needs to write that as a song. Yeah, if it's not saying this is Nazis, if it's not Nazis or Satanists, it's, say it with me, drugs.
Yeah, everything is so evil. Speaking with a few individuals within the banking system, underwriters, as well as other labels, I learned that this started with Operation Choke Point from the DOJ to curtail predatory lending, which, like most rulings, has now expanded its tentacles. Well, yeah, we read that article not too long ago where they were talking about all the bullshit laws that have been passed and that we need to repeal more of them. Remember that one where they used that? It was a law set up after the Exxon Valdez thing, where there was some paper shredding going on. So they passed a law that was supposed to curtail the fucking paper shredding. But then they expanded that law into a guy who was busted for having like a fish that were like 2 centimeters under, length limits. And then whenever he got back to shore and they went to go count it again, I guess some of the fish grew. So, they figured he destroyed evidence because
There
they,
was another one
now
about,
matched, or maybe they were using different rulers. I don't know. But now that they, were big enough, he was missing the fish that the boat that intercepted him out in the waters did. And they fucking slammed him. And now he can't do business anywhere within that fucking arena. Can't do his dream job because he loved fishing for commercial.
things that start out with,
But this is all,
intention.
they
Oh yeah,
applied paper shredding to fish. And even though he won the case, he still can't do business.
oh yeah. It things that start out, I won't say well intentioned, but things that start out sort of innocuously, and then either expand or are used as a tool to persecute people. You know, such as this, well, fraudulent, and well, they say words that we don't happen to like, or they're a different political opinion, or
In recent unsealed documents from Operation Choke Point Initiative, it was the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation officials who were determining who credit processors and banking institutions could do business within the United States, or who U.S. based payment processors could allow to use their services internationally. Forbes published an article on November 4th, 2018, detailing how the FDIC officials strong armed banks into cutting off financial opportunities for businesses in order to get them to shut down, even if the businesses were completely legitimate.
oh yeah, this is exactly what Tipper wanted for her thing, was basically use the government as a weapon and go to the banks and say, this record label is promoting music that we don't like. You're not gonna do business with this record label anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It took them 30 years, but damn it, it finally happened.
Yeah. Fucking government always moves slow, and they always try to do it like underneath your nose kind of thing. It's like, this has been going on. Now that it's here, it's like, wait a minute, this went too far. Wait a minute, it's going further then? And then eventually, there's just going to be like, well, what the fuck can I do?
Well, you can listen to Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift. That's it. Unless you want to just be a terrorist like me.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm going to listen to some more Slayer after this. Maybe
Me
some
too.
Amon Aramoth. Amarth, yeah. Why do I always mispronounce these words?
Amarth.
Well, there's no mention of PayPal in the unsealed PDF documents made available on October 12th, 2018. A transcript of the deposition from senior policy analyst at the FDIC, Artie Holofield, explained how the initiative was used to bully and illegally choke off businesses within the U.S. The DOJ dubbed the project Operation Choke Point since, as described by an oversight committee staff report. It was designed to choke out companies the administration considers high risk or otherwise objectionable, despite the fact that they are legal businesses.
If it's legal, they shouldn't be fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you to
They're
say
gonna fuck
what's?
over your ability to do anything. You can't pay bills anymore. You're going to starve to death and go homeless. Ha 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 ha. And then people that pass this are going to be like, wait a minute, why is my head on a spike in front of the White House as like things are burning? Or in front of fucking Congress or wherever the fuck you want to go. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not like I buy into the Orange Man bad narrative, but because, dear God, that's all you fucking hear.
I agree with you, and that scares me.
By denying these merchants access to the banking and payments network that every business needs to survive. According to the page 16 within the document, FDIC officials, including Marguerite Sagatelian and Michael Bernardo, worked with the Federal Trade Commission and Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on spearheading the idea about protecting consumers via lending cutoffs that would eventually become Operation Choke Point.
Yes, we must protect you.
From yourself.
I mean,
no more Grand Theft Auto or black metal for you.
You know, it's then, you know, oh, they have extreme lyrics. What should we do? Ban everything.
It's too mean. I can't see how. Fuck off. However, if the FTC is directly involved with the initiative, then it may impede the efforts from attorney Leora Lesser, who is filing a formal complaint with the FTC regarding PayPal and Patreon antitrust violations. Wait a minute, I think that's the fucking YouTuber law guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I know what I'm listening to at the end of this. Anyway, yes, YouTuber law guy.
On the upside, Republican Representative Blaine Fetus Meyer has been at the forefront of trying to get the lasting effects of Operation Choke Point shut down. In an American Banker opinion piece published on October 24th, 2018, Fetus Meyer pointed to an example of the FDIC putting pressure on a bank to shut down legitimate businesses, writing, "Trust me, Jim's being insulting on purpose. If you sound like you might be doing something good here, but, you know, I have to be that asshole."
Yes, yes, you do. It's why he's on the show, people. Sweet.
An example of blatant intimidation, a bank terminated its relationship with a legal business after threats from the FDIC. The bank eventually surrendered to the pressure, and when the bank notified the FDIC of the decision, they admitted that a risk assessment showed the business posed no significant risk to the financial institution, including financial reputation and legal risk. Yet they still terminated the banking relationship.
It's weird seeing a Republican actually defend something that they would be all for. Because the Republicans have been doing this for years.
Well, remember, a lot of things have been juxtaposed in the past 5-6 years.
Yes.
You know, we're going to protect the edgy art. Now we must destroy it because it's oppressing. And then you have the other side saying, we're going to destroy it. Wait a minute, we now have to protect this thing we hate? If we want to score any brownie points and new voters? Wow.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
For years, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency officials have continually denied any wrongdoing. Yet in the newly unsealed documents, we see proof of a conscious decision to work in conjunction with the FDIC against payday lenders. Yes, payday lenders are a scam, but fucking shit. Whenever you're down on your luck, you'll take a scam.
I first heard of payday lenders thanks to a racing driver named Scott Tucker, who was one of those rich guys who races sports cars. He was involved in payday lenders, and I believe he's now in prison. But I first heard about him. He was actually a pretty good driver for, rich guy. But I first heard about it, I'm like, wow, that's a scam.
No, fucking shit. I was still married with my ex-wife. We went through a period of a year where we were lost from payday loan to payday loan,
Oh yeah,
paying like,
typing.
150% like interest on shit.
Yeah,
I mean, we had one emergency. We're fucking flat broke, barely making it by, even with fucking, God, I fucking hate the welfare system beyond anything else. And the thing that made me hate it so much was the fact that I went through it and I saw what they do to people. It is not nice.
no, no, it is not.
I'd rather give blowjobs while panhandling for extra cash than fucking go through fucking welfare again.
Yeah, I mean it. And they're so worried about, well, are you cheating the system? Are you cheating the system?
That they let all these other people cheat, but whenever you're not cheating the system, they ride you twice as hard, like they're trying to push you to cheat the system. So that way, haha, you got something over you.
Yep.
Then whenever you try to get off of it, like I did whenever my then wife went into the military, saying, look, we're making enough money to get by. They're like, oh, well, no, you committed welfare fraud.
Yep.
By what? Trying to get off of it? Yep.
But they'll gladly kick you off anytime they want.
Yeah. These lenders were specifically targeted, not based on evidence of wrongdoing, but based on personal beliefs, a decision to strongly suggest that banks reevaluate payday lending.
Yep.
This would help explain why credit card companies and even PayPal have been so mum about the reasons behind many of the bans, since the credit companies and banks are not supposed to point the finger back at the Department of Justice or FDIC for the bans. Because if you point the finger at the government, they're going to fucking chop your fucking nuts off.
Yes. They will chop your finger off and do horrible things with it.
In their butts.
In their. So, just the way he said it.
Some have suggested that PayPal and the credit card companies are making these decisions based on ideological impetus, as detailed in a very lengthy and thorough video from Short Fat Otaku. But it may not be that simple. And one thing you have to
Isn't
keep
that
in
simple?
mind is that whenever you get involved with the government, you're going to have people all over this political spectrum in government jobs and elected into office.
Yep.
So, it doesn't even have to be from those. It could be straight from the fucking government coloring shit. Be careful who the fuck you vote in. And it's going to be a fucking bitch to go through anyone actually employed through the government, because that's safe job. Fucking praise the government shutdown. Praise it. Suck its dick. It deserves it. The government needs to be shut down more often and for longer.
Like for years on end.
Yes. Only to be summoned whenever someone attacks us or something, and even then it's just to get the military back up and running.
Unless it's you attacking us.
Yeah, but Civil War is always fun. Hey, fucking check out Motorhead's Civil War. It's a good song. In fact, on page 5 within the unsealed documents, it's explicitly stated from the FDIC that if the banks didn't comply, someone would be fired. To quote from the deposition of Marvin Anthony Lowe, accordingly, in late 2010 or early 2011, the FDIC senior Washington officials convened a meeting of all regional directors. The FDIC is divided into 7 regions, each of which has a director in charge of exercising FDIC supervisor authority over each bank in his or her region. At this meeting, in which all of the regional directors or their designees were gathered, the senior deputy director for the Division of Supervision and Consumer Protection informed them that if an institution in their region was facilitating payday lending, the regional director should require the institution to submit a plan for exiting the business. These instructions, the senior deputy director conveyed, came from the 6th floor, the chairman and senior leadership of the agency. At the meeting, the senior deputy director conveyed the following message. If a bank was found to be involved in payday lending, someone was going to be fired.
That's
So,
beautiful.
and remember, you can expend just simple payday lending to mean, oh, we're going to pay out things to people that were paid to us because we're filtering through the payments and having a way to distribute all this digital funds. Like Patreon.
Yep.
Or PayPal.
And it's the whole thing, you know, if
The
you don't
goalposts could be shifted so much with how vague most of these laws are written.
if you don't comply, the government's going to come over with a huge strap on and shaft you so hard.
And it's going to be coated in barbed wire.
Yes.
Mama fighting barbed wire. So essentially, the PayPal bans and Patreon bans, the credit card bans, and the banking bans are being passed down from those within the FDIC. And if the lenders, the creditors, or the banks don't comply, someone is going to be fired.
Yes, and possibly worse.
Mm-hmm. And they can just sit there and cover their asses by reversing their decision, but after you've already done the damage.
After you've already screwed a lot of people over, like this record label.
Yeah, fuck this record label. Fuck Carl Benjamin. Oh wait, no, we saw nothing bad there, but we already booted them. Well, that's your problem now. That can't be traced back to us because we said after we first told you fuck them, we're saying there's no problem now. That's how the government works.
And a lot of people are going to feel the sting of this.
All of Operation Choke Point's activities were supposed to come to an end back in August 2017 after a letter sent out by Bob Goodlate, the chairman for the Committee of the Judiciary House of Representatives, which stated that the investigations relating to the operation are now over and that those initiatives should not be undertaken again. However, not all the operations ceased, and as pointed out in a piece on The Hill, the actual regulatory enforcement has to come to an end via legislation.
Which, good luck getting that passed.
Representative Fetusmeyer is attempting to overturn the rather drastic effects of Operation Choke Point and has had on American businesses with a counter bill called Financial Institution Customer Protection Act of 2017, HR 2706. Essentially, the bill would force banks and payment processors to give ample and valid reasons for cutting off payment to businesses, and it can't be for reputation risk. Okay, at least you got one thing specific stated. And also shouldn't be for promoting hate or any of that shit.
It needs to be for being fraudulent.
Either proven to be fraudulent or bombing people. If there are body parts as a result of this, okay, fine.
And if Elegy is ripping people off, I like Judd of Knockmistium in his label, whatever it's called, who's been known to rip people off for drug money, basically. Even though I still like Knockmistium, but still, if he was known to be ripping people off, then I could say, yeah, okay, fine. But I've never heard anything bad about Elegy Records. They also ran, although it's still up, my favorite radio station, metal radio station, Wolf Lair Radio, which, if you want to know what black metal is, if you want to hear some good underground metal, just type in Wolf Lair Radio and go to town.
Mm-hmm.
The
bill specifies that a federal banking agency may or may not request or order a depository institution to terminate a customer account unless the agency has a valid reason for doing so, and that reason is not based solely on reputation risk. With valid reasons terminating an account include threats to national security and involvement in terrorist financing, including state sponsorship of terrorism. That's pretty specific. I gotta give him credit for getting a little specific there, but wait till the writers come in.
I don't know if you could really keep. I don't know if you really make LG Records a national security risk because no one knows who the hell they are.
Exactly.
Except for us, because we're
just into that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. We are the underground.
The federal banking agency requesting a termination must provide the depository institution with notification and justification. It was voted on with almost unanimous bipartisan support from both Republicans and Democrats. Unfortunately, the bill has been stuck in the bureaucratic purgatory as it awaits referral from the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Welcome to bureaucracy.
Welcome to bureaucracy. I like that even the Democrats and Republicans can actually agree on something. They can't agree on anything else, but they can agree on this.
Because here's proof it can backfire on anything they want to try to say.
Yeah. Because it fucks both sides equally.
It's been waiting for said approval since December 12, 2017, according to the last update on congress.gov. Separate from Fetusmeyer's efforts, there was also a lawsuit that initiated back in 2014 against the FDIC and the Office of the Comptroller of Currency for violating the Administrative Procedure Act and due process. More recently than that, Consumer Finance Monitor reported that on November 7th, 2018, 13 Republicans sent a letter to the FDIC to urge them to cease taking actions against lawful businesses utilizing choke point-like regulatory actions.
If there's one thing I have to say about LG, it's that I wish they would fight more. I don't know how you would fight it, but I don't know. I sort of do wish they would at least try to fight more. And if you get arrested or something, or if you get then fuck it. At least you got your name out there. But I don't know. That's the only thing I have to say about LG. I think, Rob, you need to fight. Take it to court. Take it to something, and
While the situation is dire and a lot of businesses are being upended by these rapid-fire decisions being handed down from the payment processors, at least there's some indication on where the decisions are coming from and some efforts to get this draconian oversight repealed. Fucking repeal Operation Joke Point in its entirety. I started that hashtag already, and I don't care if no one sees my version of it. Everyone should be hashtagging repeal Operation Choke Point.
Yes. And then maybe start your own choke point of metal sucks afterwards. After we repeal Operation
Choke Point. Of course, instead of just stopping at the hashtag, be certain to write your congressmen, senators, and shit. All of us sitting here in the Americas like us to just say, fuck this shit, we want rid of it, or I'm voting you out next cycle.
Yes, make sure you keep the blowtorch up the ass, basically.
You can't ever rest. You have to keep that blowtorch up the ass when it comes to politics. Otherwise, they ain't doing shit you want.
Otherwise, you get Obama.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
He was left. There's this whole hope and change thing.
I mean, I honestly didn't like him. I just voted for him like, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Let's just let the black guy in. That was my entire fucking reason for voting for him, and I knew I wouldn't like him. It's far too left for me.
He's not even that left.
I know.
He's actually pretty right wing. But the whole thing about him was, I said, okay, look, if you guys believe in him and you think this hope and change thing, when he gets in, keep the blowtorch up the ass. What did they do when he got in? We'll just hope that he does, that he makes the right decisions.
We'll just hope he makes the right decisions and blast anyone for being a racist for criticizing him. Because he is the chosen one.
Jello
He's the
Biafra called him
keeper of the one true way.
the Rodney King of presidents because he just likes getting beaten down.
Or the next cuss and we're gonna fuck you up. We'll fuck you up.
Which people didn't like that, but I thought it was hilarious and true because every time he tried to maybe we should do this. Shut up. Okay, we'll do what you said.
Patreon purge. Bankers are the global speech police.
Yay.
By Kitty Testa on what the hell is the Libertarian Republic. 2018 has been a dismal year for free speech. In fact, it's been like a good old-fashioned purge. One of the latest victims is Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad, whose Patreon account was terminated earlier this month for ironically using a prohibited word in a video on another channel that was not advertised on Patreon. He called Nazis niggers.
Yeah, and I just yes, it was a prohibited word, which I don't even think there should be prohibited words, but whatever. But it was not advertised on Patreon. It was on another person's channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's but he's and I get the rationale here, but he's on Patreon. But won't people see Patreon and see his name and think, no, they won't see that.
Ah, fuck. Just check where the pressure is coming from. Like I said, you go through the fucking feed that the one dude had. I forget his name. But he had like this transcription of the conversation he had with someone with Patreon over this shit. And there was that one thing where the button slipped and it's like, well, MasterCard said, okay, so now MasterCard's the one at fault. Oh, wait, it goes further than that. And as you saw with that article, it's actually DOJ shit. You gotta get shit repealed, and then maybe some other sense will start coming into people where they can't just expand things into unknown territories.
I'm not saying don't blame the other sides because the other sides are, also to blame because they didn't fight, and of course, let's be honest here, lots of reputation. Well, you can do this because any worthwhile company should go, oh, loss of reputation. I don't care because no one's ever heard of Elegy Records, or who cares about Sargon? So I'm not saying the other sides aren't completely blameless, but yes, it is also the government's fault as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't fucking keep that going. So you have to remember where all the fights are at all times, and it's a confusing mess.
But also,
but if you want an order, start at the top, then work your way down.
But also try to change small things, because changing small things that you can change may lead to changing things that it looks like you couldn't change. Like right now, I can't change the government's mind. I'm just me, but I can sure as hell try with, whatever I can.
Mm-hmm. Benjamin's removal from the platform prompted one of Patreon's top users to delete his account. Sam Harris, who had almost 9,000 paying patrons, announced on Twitter that he would be closing his Patreon account. As many of you know, the crowdfunding site Patreon has banned several prominent content creators from its platform. While the company insists that each was in violation of its terms of service, these recent expulsions seem to be more readily explained by political bias. Although I don't share the politics of the band members, I consider it no longer tenable to expose any part of my podcast funding to the whims of Patreon's Trust and Safety Committee. I will be deleting my Patreon account tomorrow. If you want to continue sponsoring my work, I encourage you to open a subscription at my website, samharris.org. Subscribe. As always, I remain deeply grateful for your support. Wishing you all a happy New Year, Sam. I have no idea who the fuck that is, but okay.
Atheist. He's one of the Richard Dawkins. Fucking what's the other guy's name?
Oh, one of those
The
guys that, religiously says destroy religion.
Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and someone else are sort of the new atheist quartet, I suppose. I don't
Yeah,
remember the other.
destroy all religion without offering anything to replace it. Very good, very good.
Well, yeah, they're offering science to replace it, which means people are going to randomly worship science. And if you have, no, they're not. People aren't as dumb as you think they are. Really?
On one hand, no, they're not as dumb as I think they are, but they are pretty damn dumb.
On the other hand, they're not as dumb as I think they are. Because every time I think they're as dumb as I think they are, something shows me that they're actually dumber than I
How
think
many
they
shows have we said, oh, this is the bottom? Then the very next show, oh God, this went further.
See, your thing was, no, they're not as dumb as, but I'm like, no, they're dumber than I think they are. So you were actually trying to have a ray of hope.
Ah, come on. We got some newbies watching this.
Yeah, well, yes. And new kids, I hope you're smart.
You probably think you are, but you're not.
No, but
that's the best piece of wisdom I can offer you. Everyone's a fucking retard, including myself.
And me. I realized that when I first started the show, I thought I was like king shit of everything. And no, wait.
It's one of the 4-hour episodes where, like, I just turn your brain into mush, and you're like, Jim, why are you still reading this? We're not done yet. Oh God, it goes further. No. Ah.
God, yes, that
gets
that
even
is
one more dumb, and we've just been exposed to the stupidity online. Enjoy our pain and suffering.
Yes, and we do it for you because we like you. Not really.
We don't even know who the fuck you are half the time. Anyways, at least in one instance, we know that Patreon has reached out to affected members to soothe their concerns. Matt Christensen has nearly 167,000 YouTube subscribers and lost 39% of his funding in the exodus. Yeah, this is what happens whenever things happen. And if you want to sit here and look at that previous passage there, okay, the one we read where fucking you got the FDIC and DOJ doing this shit, pulling strings to make other people pull strings to do this. This might be just a means to attempt to discredit Patreon by pulling the strings, so that way we could go back to regular banking institutions, and it's easier to curb the censorship on that level as opposed to, having everything internet-based.
YouTube probably doesn't like Patreon that much because,
Yeah, people are making money off site.
Rather than getting money on you, you can't get money on YouTube anymore. YouTube screwed things up for
It's one of those
them.
crackpot conspiracy theorist rope-a-dopes I'll talk about every now and then.
Yes, and I'm,
just to, sit there and contemplate things a little bit. Could it be this or could it be that? Of course, I'm
not convinced. I'm not convinced either way. I'm mulling both over. But I like your theory. I'm not fully convinced.
He posted a video revealing the content of a telephone conversation with the representative of Patreon, Jacqueline Hart. Christensen emphasizes 3 points he learned from the telephone call. 1, Patreon is not a free speech platform. 2, Patreon is not a free market platform. 3, rules enforcement on Patreon is subjective. I could have told you that from the get-go, but okay.
Which is why you should always read the terms of service before signing up, kiddies.
Yeah. But something else caught my attention. Pressure from payment processors. Christensen also posted a link to a transcript of the telephone call, and Hart did refer to pressure from a payment processor. Here are some excerpts of Hart's comments. The problem is Patreon takes payments, and while we are obviously supportive of the First Amendment, there are other things we have to consider. But secondly, as a membership platform, payment processing is one of the core value propositions that we have. Payment processing depends upon our ability to use the global payment network, and they have rules for what they will process. We just got done reading that. We're not a Visa and MasterCard ourselves. We can't just make the rules. That's what I'm saying. There's an extra layer here.
Which they shouldn't. It's money. You just process
Support
it.
Fetus Meyer's attempt to get that shit repealed. I fucked up his name. You guys saw it on screen.
See, I'm in favor of just
Meyer or something, but I fucked up and don't care. I'll just call him Fetus.
I'm in favor of, just having, look, it's money. I don't know what it's for, but here, process. And just whatever. If someone gets frauded out, well, it sucks for them. But you know what? That's the way life happens.
I mean, those damn terms of service. By the way, we're not an obligation to do anything for you. Ha 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 ha. We got your money. And
Yes.
It's legally binding that you just were suckered in. Ha ha. Volcano insurance. Hart implied that if Visa and MasterCard or financial services in general have rules about what is allowed to be funded on Patreon. Patreon took the same stance after axing Robert Spencer's account on their platform August. I've been axed from Patreon without explanation, warning, notice, no doubt as part of ongoing effects of the left deny all platforms to those who reject its agenda. To those who supported me there, thank you. I'm sorry we couldn't follow through on plans. Hi, Robert. We emailed you earlier today, which explained that, unfortunately, MasterCard required us to remove your account. Okay, so it's either MasterCard or it's DOJ.
Or both.
And it could be both.
I mean...
And it only takes one person in each place to really fuck someone over.
I mean...
And it doesn't have to be a mad cat conspiracy.
What's worse, Jim, than the government in cahoots with the banks?
Not much.
Yeah. So that's sort of my thing is, yes, the government is doing this, but do you really think MasterCard and the banks are losing any sleep over this?
Nope. Because they're still getting money.
Oh, look, we get to do this and, have fun basically screwing people over.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it is the government's fault, but there's more than one. There's more than one cook in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's a shit.
You don't need many, but there's usually more than one, yes. You replied to us, but if you have further questions, we're happy to keep emailing. In other words, please keep this off here. We don't want any more bad press. Oh, God, it's frying. Yep. Some content creators have moved their pages to Subscribestar. That platform was deplatformed by payment processing services in mid-December.
Yep.
DOJ, motherfucker. I reached out to Christensen via email and asked him what he thought of bankers being the arbiters of what is acceptable speech. He indicated that he supports a business's right to refuse service to anyone for any reason, but added, the problem that's going on currently with online deplatforming is just certain wrong thinkers aren't just being kicked off websites like Patreon, but competitors are also being stifled. I support a right to refuse service. I do not support meddling in someone else's business when they are refused service and move elsewhere.
And fine, refuse service, but then you're going to get backlash for refusing service. Yep. You're going to get backlash. I mean, it's sort of, it's like the same thing with when people were suing over a baker not wanting to bake a cake for a gay couple. And I was like, just go to another bakery and tell all your friends what scum the other bakers are. And your friends will tell the other friends, and no one will go there anymore.
And then what happened? They became martyrs and they got paid a shit ton of money to keep that case going as long as it did. I don't know how much they wound up with in pocket after everything was said and done.
But still,
their company did close down, but they still got something in pocket after paying all those legal fees.
Yeah, so I mean,
and they also got all the fame that went along with being the ones being oppressed. So that's what
yes,
happens whenever you get the government involved. There's nothing bigger than the government. So if you're being oppressed by the government, yeah, people are going to lionize you as a saint,
I'm just
even
waiting for
if
them
you
to
are
be.
scum. Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to be on I'm just waiting for them to go on the Christian talk show circuit, which they probably already have. I just don't follow the Christian talk show circuit.
Yeah, I don't care.
Well, it's fun when they go all death metal. Asheron is satanic. Remember that? I think episode 10. That was fun.
Yeah. If the bankers are now the speech police, don't we all deserve to know who is making these speech restricting laws? If the idea of the banking industry policing behavior seems ludicrous to you, think again. If the Department of Justice policing behavior seems ludicrous to you, remember that's a wing of the government. And governments are known for policing speech, especially speech that goes in direct opposition of it.
And the banks and the governments have always been close.
Yeah, because, we like money. Government loves money. Fucking shit. You won't find a fucking more crooked hive of fucking villainy than scum fucking government. It's everywhere.
So you have all this happening, and then you have do-gooders who are helping. I wonder how Middlesex would feel to know that they helped out the Trump administration.
Uh-huh. No, we'll be getting into some of that.
I want to hang that over Goldberg and Newmanoff's heads. Anyway,
Banks are effectively an arm of law enforcement. It is no joke to be blacklisted from financial services. That is how economic sanctions are implemented globally. We mostly think of money in a purely utilitarian way, as a store of value, a medium of exchange, and a unit of account. Yeah, that's pretty much what you do whenever you're using cash to buy drugs. It's a bit harder whenever you start getting electronic currency coming in, because then you got to have a way to fucking have those credit card dollars shift from one account to the next.
Yep.
But selling drugs out of your basement, that's a lot easier. Yet there is a fourth use of money as a system of control.
Yeah.
Andreas Anatopoulos, author of The Internet Money, explains how the international banking services apparatus exerts its power over all other social structures. In 2010, payment processors, including MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, and money bookers, cut WikiLeaks off from receiving donations. The people exposing the dirty side of the government were cut off from donations from bankers. You do not think that something like Operation Choke Point was used to get them to do so?
Operation Choke Point, and also, friends of the, politicians and bankers are also, hey, they're ruining me. Oh, I'll help out here.
Let's
I think
keep
Choke
fucking
Point,
you, mister.
Choke Point affects more the what's it called? The legitimate businesses such as like LG Records, which is an innocent party. I think with this, it's a little bit more to do with the bankers and the government just being in cahoots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to twist the bank's arm for them to do this.
Because, dear God, we don't want our dirty filth published on WikiLeaks either.
No, and
go ahead, air my dirty laundry. Tell them about the fucked up things I did in my life. I'm trying to beat you to the punch by writing my autobiography, because I did a lot of fucked up shit in my life. It was fun as hell. I don't regret it, but I learned some hard lessons and decided to alter my behavior.
And your lessons are hilarious and very fun to read.
Yes, like don't eat out a street hooker.
Clap Queen. Sick, and obscene.
This was done at the behest of the U.S. government. Money is a system of control. There isn't really a free market in financial services. Yes, you can get this card or that one, or open an account at Chase Bank or Bank of America, but they are all connected to the same banking system, which includes central banks all over the world.
Okay.
Keep in mind that whenever people are fucking posting shit about getting that fucking great, virtual ID that's online, that means gives you access to all the accounts everywhere, they make it sound all cool, clean, and fucking convenient, and but that's just a way to fucking keep you under control.
True.
They know your every movement. It's exactly like the fucking social credit system they're using in China.
Which is why I just say I'm just going to get as loud as possible. I mean, if they know my every move already, then I've already lost. I'm already unemployable, and I've already ruined
See,
every chance for
I like
meaningful
to occasionally
relationship.
go on the FBI website, then using their little search bar on the site itself to look up Italian food. Because damn well they had fucking operations against different mafia bosses named after Italian food.
Yes,
And
but
occasionally I'll look up tacos just because I
yeah,
got
the
Mexican mob in there.
whole thing for me is like I said, I know that I'm already screwed, so I'm just going to get as loud as possible, and like I said, I've already ruined every chance for like meaningful employment or relationship. So why not just destroy everything?
Yeah, polite society is not really good on the forgiving and forgetting thing. They like to bash you for things you did in your infancy.
Graveland said years ago that they're not NSBM. They've repeated it. Do you think Graveland will ever not be called NSBM?
Just because people like Metal Sucks did.
I mean, and because yeah, Darkin has his views, but he has band members who were and not in that right wing, and they sing about paganism. They don't sing about it's all about paganism and nature
Yeah.
and weird medieval reenactment music,
Mm.
which is actually kind
Bring
of
out your
interesting.
dead, motherfucker. Bring out your dead.
Bring out your dead, and then lay them on the ground so I may have sex with them.
There we go. That's true medieval society. Fuck it. I'm gonna die from a plague anyway. I'm gonna fuck this plague-ridden corpse.
More true than you think, because those gravediggers were depraved.
Yeah.
I love them.
Whenever you're surrounded by death 24/7, you just kind of lose it and say, why not?
Yes. Uh, I will be out of microphone range for about 2 minutes. Keep reading. I'll still be able to hear you.
All right. Any organization on the planet could be frozen out of the banking system, as we just went over. Even powerful, wealthy organizations like the Catholic Church could be cut off if those in control decided to do so. The same thing with the Clinton Foundation. Just remember that too. It works all ways. Many countries that have been on the receiving end of international economic sanctions have looked for workaround solutions. Prior to his assassination in 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was stockpiling gold and supported a Pan-African gold-backed currency. Leaked Hillary Clinton emails suggested that this was one of the reasons the US and EU enabled the overthrow of the Libyan leader. This reality drives many people to support the idea of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are permissionless and censorship resistant. We are all under the control of the financial system. Yep, slaves to the almighty dollar. Many make the argument that social media platforms are private companies and no one has a right to their digital soapboxes. While the status of social media companies and their relationship to the government make this debatable, this is simply not true for banks. Banks are highly regulated and serve as watchdogs for possible financial crimes. They can't just do as they please, and every credit card transaction is affiliated with a bank. MasterCard could not decide on a whim that anyone whose first name is Martha shall not be issued a credit card. And yet, despite being highly regulated by federal and state government, the suggestion here is that the banks decide who will be allowed to use their services based on speech. Or perhaps it's the DOJ and FDIC.
Yep.
Just keep batting that around. If the fucking government comes on and says you can't do your banking business anymore and we're shutting you down because you're not firing the person that said that you could do business with this guy, Joe Schmo X, what the fuck can they do other than just get rid of Joe Schmo X by any means possible? That means going to the other people they do business with, such as, the online distributors of money, like your fucking PayPal and your Patreon and shit like that. Then, the pressure just gets pushed downhill. Shit rolls downhill.
Yep, and then it's just, it's so amazingly corrupt.
Oh, yeah. With that much money flowing around, it's always corrupt.
Yes.
And if we were to burn it to the ground, restructure the financial institution a different way, give it a few years, somewhere between, 20 to 100, and it'll be just as corrupt.
Yep. It'll never change, but you should still fight for it.
Mm-hmm. It's difficult to imagine that bankers themselves have a vested interest in policing speech. The pressure to regulate online content must be coming from elsewhere. And it's only getting worse. Despite vague defenses that users are quashed due to violations of terms of service and broad application of the indefinable concept of hate speech.
Can I
fucking blindy?
Can I play devil's advocate here? Yes,
go ahead, fucking blindy. I gotta
fucking
do my hate.
Sidey.
Now get it right. Say bipolar bitch or fucking psycho or something.
Shut up, fatty.
There we go. But you're fatty too.
Do you not think that some of that is also Patreon using the banks as a scapegoat? Everyone hates the banks. Everyone. Everyone.
The hard part here is tracing everything to a fucking source. Okay, and there's such a bureaucracy, and that's the point of the bureaucracy. You can't trace the source.
Yes.
Well, one of the many points of having a bureaucracy. If you can't trace the source, then you don't know who to fight. Then you're fucking just stuck in limbo going blah, 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 blah.
But everyone hates the banks. So Patreon, I'm not saying they haven't been pressured into it, but they could also be saying, well, we really didn't want to, but the banks made us. You should, don't blame us, blame the evil banks. Whereas meanwhile, they're like, we kicked them off. So that's another thing.
I mean, it could be the banks, it could be the government, it could just be people saying, well, everyone hates both the government and the banks. We'll get them to blame them all.
Personally, I think it's a combination of all of them. I don't think Patreon is really losing any sleep over, although they might now that people are actively leaving. I don't think the banks are losing any sleep over banning, LG records.
Because everyone's got to have a way to pay bills, and then you got the government who doesn't lose any sleep because, well, they could just fucking gulag your ass.
The middle sucks. The middle sucks doesn't lose any sleep because we struck a blow to the evil fascist scum. Just wait till they come for you next, Goldberg.
Oh yeah, maybe we should use these laws to fucking go after them. That'd be fun. Only to inform them of their support of Antifa, which is a fucking terrorist group. Let's do that.
Not that I'm advocating for this, which I have to say for legal reasons, but if anybody
and funding Antifa, I'm certain they donated some. That's funding to Antifa. It's going by the letter of the new revised law, even.
I'm not advocating for this, which I have to say for boring legal reasons, but if someone watching this was a sort of hacker on, say, WikiLeaks and wanted to, say, hack and see who's funding metal sucks,
or who
I will not lose any sleep over that.
Yeah.
But, of course, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you should.
Yeah, that's kind of illegal. maybe.
We're merely putting that out there as a
hypothetical situation which we do not wish anyone to enact. We're putting out as an example of what not to do.
Yes, a hypothetical situation that we in no way can condone.
We will never condone.
Moving on swiftly.
Just wait till we start doing Swine Brothers from prison, brother.
I think the laugh just fucked us over, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, see, they said that, and then they started laughing, so that means... Anyway, moving on swiftly before we get ourselves arrested.
Their influence is creating pockets of dissent. When dealing with a pocket of dissent here and there, the establishment voices dismiss influencers as conspiracy theorists.
Yep.
And everyone's a conspiracy nutter, and I hate it when I'm proven right on shit.
The problem with conspiracy theorists is that the real ones, the real conspiracy theories, people don't want to hear about them because they're oftentimes quite boring. People would rather hear about Alex Jones turning the freaking frogs gay.
Turn the freaking frogs gay, frogs gay, frogs gay. Sorry, every time.
Yeah, I know. You sent me that. But which is why I try to sort of balance it out with, because I don't want, we're not Alex Jones, although I have turned frogs gay before.
I don't know. I turned frogs straight.
They weren't freaking
one
frogs.
Look at my limp dick, and I go, God, I don't want that anymore. I'm gonna go fuck women now.
Yeah, but I've turned frogs gay because I showed a female frog my dick. And, oh God, I don't want that. all the male frogs are straight and all the female frogs are gay. Nobody's fucking.
Just gotta love the fact the world will only be improved by our death. I love that fan mail.
Yes, and not only do I not like your show, but I think it's bad for society in general.
That's whenever you know you're loved.
Yes.
This is becoming less effective, and now deplatforming combined with expulsion from financial services is the big stick dissenters now face. It always gets worse before it gets better. And these are the death throes of the old school. And eventually, we're going to have the new school of fucking morality come in.
And the new school morality will be just as bad as the old school.
It'll just have different values, but it'll be just as bad. And we'll have to shit on it as well.
Which is why I'm glad that, I have a Patreon, although it's retarded. And I have a PayPal, but I've never used it. But if I get kicked out of Patreon or PayPal, even if I start using it, we don't get a cent.
Whenever Shitter, Fecal Face, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify simultaneously deplatformed Alex Jones and InfoWars, many cheered, many did not, warning that the Alex Jones was just the beginning.
Even I didn't cheer, and I can't stand the little troll.
I point and laugh at him. He's a meme.
I prefer William Cooper, because William Cooper was just as batshit crazy, but he explained his views in like a very, articulate, and then I saw this, and then I saw Jesus get into UFO, and I was like, oh God, he actually believes in this, and he's saying it all sanely.
Oh God, I did that much acid once.
Whereas Alex Jones, I'm not saying he doesn't believe in it, but he's so over the top. It's just...
You didn't even feed off that and tell me that I did acid more than just that once.
Oh, well, yes. I was waiting for you to...
Fuck.
Although William Cooper did hate...
Just that once I did that much acid.
Yes.
Kids, drugs are bad, okay? But dear God, are they fun.
Yes, drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
It's that, unless you want to have fun, but pay the costs for it later in life. There is a cost associated, but dear God, was it worth it? I think.
I don't bitch about the cost.
Some people don't think so, but other people, huh?
Don't bitch about the cost either. You know what you got yourself into.
You heard it all up front before. We got the internet's here, and all kinds of other people telling you it's bad. Even the drug positive shows tell you it's bad.
Hey,
Don't do drugs, kids. Unless you want to pay the price for a little bit of fun now. Oh,
Yes.
dear God, the Admiral just walked out here dressed in pure 16th century Admiral gear and told us we have a nice piece of outside here. Did you see that? Yeah, let's just go inside now.
Yes. Kids, don't do drugs unless you want to have cool stories.
Self-described rogue journalist Caitlin Johnstone took a stand on the side of freedom of speech and warned that Jones was being deplatformed, being anti-establishment, and this would happen to others, even those on the left. Well, there's been a huge purge of people on the left from even left-winning websites because of shit. And they went to places like Gab and, fucking other places after they were fucking banned.
People stop talking to me because I criticize people who criticize Trump because they think he's Hitler. Then they call me a Trump supporter. Yes, I'm a Trump supporter. That's me. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, we're totally in support of the village idiot, whose crowning achievement was at least he wasn't the warmonger that would have profited directly off of pressing the shiny red button.
He's the village idiot's village idiot. The village idiot looks at him and goes, God damn.
I will give him this. He knows how to hire people to cover for his deficiencies.
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of. But,
But so did Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, so did...
Well, yeah.
Trump and Trump both know how to hire competent, if slightly scary people.
Yes.
But Bush knew he was a mascot. I don't know if Trump even really... I don't know if Trump realized... I think on some level he realizes he's a mascot.
He may not actually be a mascot. He might actually just be that bullheaded to not be the mascot, even though they try to relegate him to it. He just keeps doing shit to say, no, I'm not. And somehow it weasels his way through that he's somehow not.
What did I read? I read today that, or I think it was yesterday, that basically he does his thing, but basically everyone in his fucking party ignores him. Just, yeah, okay, Donnie, yeah, haha, yeah, whatever. But he still tries to do his shit anyway. So, yeah, he may be so bullheaded that he tries not to be the mascot. Whereas Bush, well, okay, Reagan knew he was the mascot. Bush too was probably so stupid he thought he was president. Whereas Trump, I don't even know. I think it's a combination of both, where he both knows he's a mascot and wants to not be a mascot.
Which is going to create a really fucked up situation, which is great. It keeps the news agencies crying. I mean, it sucks. It hurts my brain that that's all I hear. But then whenever I don't hear it for a second and I sit there and take a moment to think about it, it's like, that's fucking hilarious. They just cry constantly over this. Sure, make them cry some more. Oh, wait, that means I'm going to have to put up with them crying over it more. Oh, God. It's that never-ending cycle. I want them to cry, but I'm so sick and tired of them crying.
Like I said, he's a combination of Reagan and Bush. Bush too, I mean.
Well,
God.
Yeah, I also remember he's like a fucking New York Democrat, so it's funny that, we're going to go after the actual guy that was more left than the Democratic candidate.
Didn't he state a couple of times that he was going to go Republican to be president because the Republicans are stupid enough to elect him president? Or something
I've seen different accounts saying that was debunked, and other ones that said that was true. So I have no concept of whether that's believable or not.
Well, he's flip-flopped, so I mean, he was actually Bush 1's first choice to be vice president. Could you imagine Trump in '89 as vice president rather than Dan Quayle? I mean, just as stupid, but more orange.
Set up, hit the soft target so that your oligarch-friendly censorship doesn't look like what it is. Then once you've manufactured consent, go on to shut down the rest of the dissenting media bit by bit.
Yep.
They just shut down a bunch of fucking death metal labels. Gotta love it, or at least affected them.
Or well, affected several, shut down one.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
So
misused
yes,
words. That's what
it's
happens
okay.
whenever you do drugs, kids. You know, you go from a 172 IQ to a 152, and then everything starts blurring together, and somehow you develop dyslexia.
It's actually just 52 now.
It probably
Somewhere
is
near the
by now.
off.
I did ride the short bus to school, hence I am a retard.
Whereas I can actually sort of speak well, sort of sometimes.
I can act well after I practice the script for 5 minutes.
Yes, I've seen you act. Everyone watched Fright Night Theater.
Yes, and the script is pretty much Jim. Do this. Okay. Hi, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. What? And trust me, you hear it doesn't make any sense, but you watch it in context, it does.
Yes, actually, which is funny because I do much better off the cuff improv.
Well, most of that
There's...
is kind of improv too, because Harry was just like, "Do what comes naturally, Jim." For one scene, I'm like, "Okay." So he started it, and I just started punching myself in the head.
I'm pretty sure doing it.
There were times he tells me, "Dude, you gotta tone down. I work like a job." Oh, right, okay. So I tone it back a bit, and it's perfect for kids' TV. Well, not kids' TV, but family friendly
It's
kind
on
of horror
cable.
movie hosting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on a cable channel.
Yeah, but it so I just want to Joe comes naturally. Stop fucking the corpse! Oh God, no!
Jim, just okay. Tone it back a bit. Okay, now he's just licking his tongue to the corpse. That's creepy, perfect, and hilarious. There we go. You just go.
Yes, that is creepy, especially when you do it.
Oh yeah. Oh
You would be
God.
a good hand.
I forget if that was on the Christmas episode or if that was a filler he was planning for another episode down the line where I was looking at a picture and did that, and they're like, "Dude, that was like so fucking creepy. I loved it."
Yeah, you have that down quite well.
Jones' social media purge was in August. In September, payment processor PayPal banned InfoWars from using its service because they didn't feel that Jones's websites ran counter to our. They felt that Jones' website ran counter to our core value of inclusion. So you're going to exclude to include. Okay.
Where's the thing I shared a couple weeks ago where a guy was told to remove a fuck Nazi sign because it wasn't inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Can you imagine if your banker read your end of Fed tweets and decided you don't share the bank's values and closed your checking account?
Yes, Elliot, we heard how you'd like to set Disneyland on fire. And no, I didn't say I'd like to set Disneyland on fire. Burn Disneyland, baby. Oh shit.
Yeah. That financial services are using their power to control speech is alarming. But who exactly is doing the targeting? Is it the result of pressure from an outrage mobs? The anti-First Amendment Southern Poverty Law Center? They're such a fucking joke. It's a meme in and of itself now. Let's go after cartoon frogs and people giving the OK symbol. That's been used for many years since before my birth. It's like if they went after the fawns going, eh.
Yes, if you the fawns say speaks symbol.
If anyone from the alt-right wants to just make that into a meme, go ahead. I want to point and laugh as the Southern Poverty Law Center attacks the fawns.
Eat shit, Henry Winkler.
Is it coming from sources inside the government? We simply don't know the true source of the censorship. Only that they are powerful enough to influence PayPal, Stripe, Visa, and MasterCard.
My theory is it's a combination of all of them and PayPal, Visa, MasterCard themselves. I don't think you could pinpoint to one.
One thing we have to point out is one thing that George Carlin also pointed out. You don't need a grand conspiring mass. People just whispering the same thing over, to each other back and forth to hammer out a fucking official thing whenever you could have, a casual conspiracy just because interests align.
Oh yeah,
You
I'm not
know,
saying it's all
well, you know
someone's.
what? I don't like this guy, and these people
Yeah.
are telling me not to do something bad to this guy. I'm just gonna let it slide and do something bad to this guy.
Oh yeah,
You know what?
just
Or I should be standing up for this person, but I don't like him, so I'm just gonna step out of the way. And any bad shit that happens to him, there you go. I just don't care.
oh yeah,
They don't have to all be colluding. They don't even have to know who each other are or any of that. There doesn't have to be a huge incestuous butt fuck session with 16 she-males crying out for daddy.
Oh, well, just to clear it up, I'm not suggesting that they're meeting in secret rooms. When I say it's a combination of all four, I'm saying basically, you know, sort
I
of like
don't
a
like this
daisy
guy.
chain
They don't
type
like
thing.
that guy for different reasons. Fuck it, let it happen.
Yeah, and then it just sort of happens. It just sort of tumbles down. But yeah, I'm not suggesting that Visa, PayPal, and the U.S. government meet in a secret room, lighting candles and chanting, Cthulhu, really.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not suggesting that there's a green unified conspiracy. What I am suggesting is there are multiple partners to blame here. It's a grand ununified conspiracy.
What we're watching is not just progressive activists and business interests saying wrong thinkers don't have a home on their platforms. They're saying those wrong thinkers don't have a home on any platforms.
Which
They don't
is,
even have to flat out say it or even think it. They just have to let it happen. And it just so happens that it happened.
yep,
It
a
doesn't
whole
have to
shitload
be
of.
formal. It doesn't have to even be active. It could just be complete inaction
I mean,
because you don't care about the person.
this whole thing could be a lot of coincidences that mold into one huge whole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all this stuff with LG records and all that, this could all just be coincidence, and then but it just mushrooms and mushrooms and mushrooms into an attack on free speech.
Yep. I mean, yeah, we got our fucking college students screaming destroy free speech now, you know, but how much power do they currently have?
Yeah, we
Some are
don't
in
know
places where it's like, oh wow, I get to be at the head position of online newspaper no one reads.
how much power does Metal Sucks really have. I am glad that I use an ad blocker so I can actually go. See, everyone bitches at me for having an ad blocker, but it does have its uses. I can actually go into Metal Sucks and read the few articles about news without actually giving them any money.
Mm-hmm.
And people bitch at me for having ad blockers, but here's why.
I loved it when I went on this one alt right website. This is a few months ago. I went there. I don't. It might have even been a Nazi website. I forget. I know that they tried to package it as alt right, though. And yes, I know there's a huge fucking difference, but whatever. I went there and I clicked on it, and it called me a fucking Jew for using ad blocker.
The difference between the biggest difference between Nazis and alt right is that alt right just jumps on whatever political train they can find.
Mm-hmm. Nazis are a bit more consistent, although
Whereas
fucking
alt
shit. I
right,
debated
it's
them
like,
for far too long in my life. Oh God.
well, that's why I don't want to say
I mean,
respect.
sometimes it's great whenever they hit that one point that's right. Then you see where it twists and turns and goes into completely like that's well beyond fucking Alex Jones territory. That's like, whoa. I
Well,
need to
that's
do more
why
acid to see that as fact.
now, kids, I don't want to say I have respect for Nazis or whatever, but I sort of, a little bit more than the alt right, only because the alt right. Well, today we're going to be Nazis. You know what? Tomorrow we're going to be neoconservatives.
Yeah.
They're the new metal of politics. So the machine
Oh
head of politics.
God. Just new
Jumping
metal
on
alone was bad. Oh God.
Well, but Machine Head jumps on every single trend from groove metal to new metal back to thrash.
Now remember, kids, new metal is actually alt rock. It is not metal. It was just a corporate term coined to drain metalhead loyalty.
Remember, kids, Machine Head is like Pantera, only worse. Although they did have one good album, Bird in My Eyes, which I said good, not, you know.
I mean, I actually like me some Pantera, but yeah, I see what you're getting at. They are the progenitors of that new metal shit.
Even I like some Pantera. Shut up. I don't hate them. They're probably one of the best of the
groove.
Yeah, them and Overkill and Slayer.
Mm-hmm. Slayer, one of the elite few to actually do anything good with groove.
Yeah,
but you also
I like
consider their roots that it was kind of hard for them to. It would have been a little bit hard for them to fuck up. Not saying they would have.
Yes. I also like Overkill's groove metal because it's just a little bit less shitty than.
I just still love Slayer's going out with a perfect discography. Even their punk cover album was fucking sweet.
I love punk, and yes, you also like Chaos AD, which meh.
You're talking about a different band.
Yeah, well, that's Sepultura, and they also went groove.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, who both have been affected by their supporters leaving Patreon, are looking to develop an alternative site for content creators. It would not be surprising if payment processors refused to work with this new platform, just as they parted ways with Subscribestar. Even if Peterson and Rubin do find a payment processing partner, news to say they won't pull the rug out after launch because someone found an old VHS video from 35 years ago, Peterson saying something now deemed completely inappropriate.
There's a
reason why I try to say things even more outlandish than I did when I was a kid. Because you can't top it then.
There was a racing driver named Derek Daly. Okay, he was Irish born. He moved to America, and when he was getting, I think this was the year of his first Indy 500, he did an interview with one of the radio hosts, and he said, "Well, what if you don't get along with your team?" And Derek Daly said what was a perfectly normal expression in Irish culture. Well, then I guess I'm the last nigger in the woodpile. That was a perfectly innocent Irish expression. Now, in America, even in the 80s, it was taboo. He didn't realize it was taboo, and the guy told him, "Hey, you can't say that." And I didn't realize it was that offensive. 35 years later, another guy was telling the story to a colleague. This guy gets fired. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't on air or anything. He was telling the story. He gets fired for telling his story off camera. Derek Daly gets fired from his job that he works on at the moment, and his son I don't remember what it was. Lilly Diabetes was sponsoring his son Connor. His son got his sponsor pulled for something said before the kid was even born. Not on camera. I think it was actually broadcast on the radio, but I haven't found clips of it. Robin Miller heard it, and he even had people coming to his defense. Willie T. Ribs, a black racer, said that
that sounds a hell of a lot like how the fucking Chinese social credit system is supposed to work. Guilt by association. You weren't even born when this happened, but you have to be punished for it.
Yeah, Willie. He had people coming to Derek's defense. Willie T. Ribs said, "Look, I heard it, and I explained to him why you can't say that," or people explain. He's like, he was mortified when he found out that that was actually a horrible thing to say. Keep in mind, he was actually describing himself and he used that pejorative, but still, he realized that was a bad thing to say, and he never said it again. But 35 years later, shit comes back to haunt him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, that's a perfect example of what happens today.
Powerful entrenched groups are grappling with conditions they perhaps did not foresee. The influence of corporate media and thus narrative control is waning. In its place, a cacophony of voices, many willing to take the political and financial establishment head on. And people are listening. It's a free market of information and opinion, and listeners are willing to financially support the voices they trust.
Unless, of course, YouTube decides it's not. I wonder where we'll come in these search results. Let's put it that way.
Somewhere at the bottom's below zero. I don't even think we show up ever. I think we're always in fucking limbo.
Well, unless you search for something random like Ego Heard Gods, I think we're on the first page there. Or I think intestinal. We're still on the first page of intestinal disgorge interview. We did that 3 years ago.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yet we are trapped in a financial system that is designed to control us. It is an imminent threat to our liberty. The only true alternative we have to this system is Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Which doesn't work. And I mean, I think Bitcoin, you have to have so much power to actually mine anything.
It would work better if, you could just buy Bitcoins.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah.
It would work a little bit better if we had a few more people willing to barter with it exclusively. I mean, and then fucking worry about converting it to real money later.
Yeah.
Or that requires someone more than what I make, so fuck it.
Well, also they devalue in the Bitcoins. I believe they keep going up and down like more than a whore on Saturday night.
Yeah, because you got people trying to get on them, but then they find out, there's few options with them, so then they abandon it, and that causes the price to go up and down.
More than the proverbial whore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you were to get everyone to fucking adopt it, then hurrah, but not everyone's going to.
Nope.
And cash in pocket is also a good alternative, but you can't really do much with it for online shit, so.
No, as I said in the previous article, 30 years ago, yeah, that's how you would run a metal label. You would send cash. Say
it's great for going down the street and ask them how much for that car.
Yeah.
Not a car lot, just your fucking random neighbor you saw having one in their yard with a for sale sign. Cash is great for that, but not so much, doing a lot of other things.
Yeah, it's hard to transmit cash through fiber optics.
They are currently volatile and more difficult to use and accepted too few places to be practical, but they might be needed in a world where bankers decide what we can and cannot save.
Which, I mean, I don't think they'll ever truly win because unless they kill 90% of the population. Because they still have, I mean, I don't care. Destroy me. I'm already destroyed.
Yeah, I did that to myself. Oops.
I'm already high risk, so I just don't care. I'll say, I'll say what I need to say. That's why I know some people who are like, hey, I really want to say this, but I'm sort of afraid of being, fired from my job if I said something. So could you read this article on your show?
Okay.
Yeah. Great. We're the voice of the voiceless.
Joy. I don't want that job.
Me neither, especially because I have my own voice. I don't need to be someone else's.
It would just be great if everyone just said whatever the fuck was on their mind without fear of anything.
Agreed.
Sadly, I understand the push here. You got yourself a fucking job within something that's funded by someone that likes polite society a bit too much, so you might get the shaft if you say the wrong thing, and you don't want to fucking deprive your family of a meal. I totally understand that. That's fine. I'm not gonna fucking mock you for that. But you see, I've already had my family taken away from me. I've been homeless, jobless, fucking cast out, had the shit kicked out of me more times than I can say, and I'm just saying fuck it all. Everything's been taken from me, so what the hell? I'm just trying to stay legit.
I'm just trying to do my own thing. Everyone, I've already pretty much burned every single bridge, so.
Yep. That's what happens when you have too much fun as a kid. Sometimes you burn too many bridges.
That's happened
when I'm still on good terms with my family.
A, when you have too much fun as a kid. B, when you have a big mouth.
Yeah, well,
Learn to shut up. No.
That's why you suck the clit for dildo whores.
Well, right, but no, it's like you should learn to shut up more. I was like, no, I refuse to shut up.
And those dildo whores need your bitcoins. Actually, I actually bumped into a hooker about like 2 years ago. Then it wasn't the fuck or anything, Those years are past me. But I bumped into one. We started talking. She's like, "Yeah," and then I got this Bitcoin transaction for some of my Johns. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's always
that's
good, if you're gonna use cryptocurrency to fucking poke yourself a hooker and give her a couple more coins just to go in bareback. There you go.
she's the ultra modern hooker.
Anyways, a new law intended to curb sex trafficking threatens the future of the internet as we know it. From Vox.
Speaking of sex trafficking, that was a great lead-in. That was just one of those classic lead-ins that you cannot script.
It's just something random that came into mind too, and
Yeah,
then
I
I
know.
remembered, oh yeah, I'm doing this, and then as I'm reading the headlines, like that was a good lead, wasn't it? Anyway, enough stroking my
Swine
own
Brothers.
cock here. The
Swine Brothers, where magic happens.
controversial bill package, Sesta, has already impacted sites like Reddit, Craigslist, and Google, and that's just the start. From what I could tell, you gotta love your government. Just remember, the FDIC and DOJ might decide to fuck you over if you like printing out nudes or drawing hentai.
Well, there was, I think in the '90s, there was a fanzine writer who used to write, paint very, very, very horrible, like images of the consequence of rape and things like that. I believe it was, yeah, they featured a lot of nakedness, but it wasn't. It was not meant to be erotic. It was meant to be horrifying, right? He got, I think like a, I don't. He got a huge fine. He got a year of or several years of probation. He wasn't allowed to create drawings even in his own home. Keep in mind, this is a fanzine with like 50 subscribers, and he was to keep out of children. He couldn't talk to anyone who was under the age of 18, which was sad for him because he worked at a convenience store. So he got thrown the book at for something that he really had no business being thrown the book at. That was in the '90s. Today, it's even easier.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the 1950s, squared.
Yep, except for we don't have those cool front engine cars racing in Indy. Damn it.
Wondering why Craigslist recently killed its infamous personal section? You can thank Congress, and you can start bracing for more deletions and censorship to come. This week, President Trump, this was months ago.
Yeah, I think we actually read this.
I don't think we read this, but
yeah, we read this on an earlier episode.
This week, President Trump signed into law a controversial set of bills intended to make it easier to cut down on illegal sex trafficking online. Both bills, the House bill known as no, we read about Craigslist. We didn't read this article. House bill known as FOSTA, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, and the Senate bill SESTA, Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, have been hailed by advocates as a victory for sex trafficking victims. Enjoy your hentai games while you can.
Of course, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The bills
Because
also poke a huge hole in the famous long-standing safe harbor rule of the internet, Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, usually shorthanded as Section 230, and generally seen as one of the most important pieces of internet legislation ever created. It holds that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be threatened as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. In other words, Section 230 has allowed the internet to thrive on user-generated content without holding platforms and ISPs responsible for whatever those users might create. Remember, kids, Tumblr banned all pornographic content because someone posted kitty porn on there.
Yes, and then my mind control stories get banned.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be sad. I like weird shit, I know. What was that? That was one of the few good things Clinton never did. Bill, I mean. He also, in the same year, of course, signed the Telecommunications Act, which gave away the airwaves, and for that he should have been impeached. Forget Monica Lewinsky signing over the airwaves to corporations and basically making all the public TV. You're lucky, Jim, that you still get horror hosts and things like that, because
and that's through backwater deals, sort of, because that's what we're used to out here in them darn there hill.
Public TV is now mostly religious or politics, whereas it used to be, hardcore punk and metal shows used to be on public access TV. So, yeah, I think
reading Poe high as fuck.
Well, I've done that. The telltale heart.
Probably about $12. The words are moving, but I could still make sense of them. And it's about the guy, yes. Yes, rip out those floorboards. I do the same thing. I can totally relate. I'm on 16 hits of LSD, by the way.
That would be a great public access show. Jim reads Poe while high.
But Fosta Setsa creates an exception to Section 230 that means website publishers would be responsible if third parties found to be posting ads for prostitution, including consensual sex work, on their platforms. Remember, Tumblr bans all pornographic content because of this shit. And it's gonna cut into your little hentai games. It's gonna fucking make me fucking goddamn fucking Steam will probably retroactively delete my damn fucking copy of Secure Dungeon.
Yes.
I got a patch, so I got the third layer of armor, which are they're entirely naked. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it starts out banning porn, and then it's anyone who's naked, and then it's the mention of nakedness. And then we have Fahrenheit 454, or whatever it was. 451, I think it was. I don't know. Fuck it. You know what I mean.
Yeah. And the goal of this is supposed to be that policing online prostitution rings gets easier. No, it's not. It's going to be the same as always. They just changed the game and lingo.
Yep.
What the act has actually done, however, is create confusion and immediate repercussions among a range of internet sites as they grapple with the ruling sweeping language.
Yep.
In the immediate aftermath of the passage on March 21st, 2018, numerous websites took action to censor or ban parts of their platforms in response. Not because those parts of the sites were actually promoting ads for prostitutes, but because policing them against the outside possibility that they might was just too hard.
Preemptive banning.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing?
Yep. All this bodes poorly for the internet as a whole. Yay, they're going to ban PornTube. After all, as many
not just porn. Let's think about online dating for a second.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to take a hit as it all rolls downhill.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen how the fucking that operation rolled all downhill. Now we're going to have this rolling all downhill.
Yay, soon there will be no internet.
And especially, we'll just have to remake the internet from the ground up. After all, as many opponents of the bill have pointed out, the law doesn't appear to do anything concrete to target illegal sex trafficking directly, and instead threatens to increase violence against the most marginalized. But it does make it a lot easier to censor free speech on small websites, as evidenced by the immediate ramifications the law had across the internet.
Which, of course, the government wants to censor free speech from websites, small websites. I mean, they've been trying to set up basically online toll booths. I think that was the thing in about 2000. Al Gore wanted to set up basically online toll booths where to get to this website, you have to pay up the ass to that website.
Yeah. These acts began their respective lives as two different bills created in an effort to curb sex trafficking online on online personal sites, in particular Backpage.com.
You know
Backpage has
what
long
would
been
make
known
it?
for its advertisements for sex workers, though these were formally removed from the site last year.
You know what would make it easier? Just legalize prostitution.
Yeah, it would, but it fucking
Moral.
hurts. It's either damning to God or it hurts the women, oppresses the women.
But what hurts the women more is making it illegal, which means they have to work in fucking horrible
Yeah, you can't
situations
have a
with
say over your own body, regardless if you're listening
psychopathic
to the left or
pimps.
the right. If it's the left or the right, a woman has no right to her own body. You either have to have the abortion mandatory, or you have to ban it. You can't just say, "Hey, it's an option."
Exactly. But if you make prostitution legal and these women, basically do what they do and actually get taken care of, rather than some psychopathic pimp.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that And as far as damning to God, you don't want to know what I did to God in that video game.
Mm-hmm. You and those text adventures, and you found a good one. I take it.
Yes, yes, I did. The Christian God was well, yeah.
Brutally sodomized 18 million times with flamethrowers.
He was skull fucked by a bear to death.
And then you found out you were going to hell anyway. Enjoy.
Yes. Well, hell, I already know I'm going to hell, and anyone who's like my friend or someone who knows me is going with me. So,
I like the one where he told me that you ended all reality.
oh yes, that one, yes.
And
In
it
a
was
fate
just
so
like,
much worse.
even if you spent every single moment of the next 1,000 years contemplating how horrible it is, you'd only have like 1/100000th of 1% knowledge of how horrible it actually is.
And that's just the physical part.
Mm-hmm.
The mental part's even worse, and it never
Yes.
ends.
The end.
Yes, you have doomed humanity to a fate so much worse than extinction.
Yeah. It's also seen numerous controversies related to illegal sex work. Authorities have arrested individuals using it to pay for sex. And Backpage has aided law enforcement in investigations into ads on its site. In the past, authorities have taken down similar websites through targeted raids. But previous attempts by authorities to hold Backpage responsible for illegal content on its website have failed due to Section 230's dictum that websites aren't liable for content posted by their users.
They shouldn't be.
And you're still trusting the government? Is the government still God?
The government is God, and what is my mission?
And remember, Trump's the one who signed this one into effect. So, does that still make him the saint and savior?
Well, that's the thing. The government is God, and what is my mission, Jim?
To kill God.
Yes.
This trend culminated in the December 2016 dismissal of a lawsuit designed to target Backpage for ads on its website. The presiding judge explicitly cited Section 230 in his decision to dismiss. Immediately following this dismissal, however, the tide rapidly seemed to turn against Backpage. In January 2017, a Senate investigation ultimately found Backpage to be complicit in obscuring ads for child trafficking. A month later, a documentary of survivors called I Am Jane Doe focused on Backpage, arguing that the safe harbor provision protecting Backpage from liability for ads on its site should be done away with. Knee-jerk response
Of course,
flaw.
the way to do away with child trafficking is legalize prostitution, because then they would have to make money. The people who do the things with, horrible things like this would have to make money somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like drugs. People fight drugs, fight drugs, fight drugs, fight drugs. Legalize drugs. That's the best way to fight them.
Yeah. Congress listened. The acts were created last year in response to the backlash with the bill's creators specifically naming Backpage in an attempt to ensure that future lawsuits like the one dismissed in 2016 could move forward. This move drew immediate skepticism from within the legal community. Noted law professor and blogger Eric Goldman wrote of SETSA's creation that the bill would expose the internet entrepreneurs to additional unclear criminal risk, and that would chill socially beneficial entrepreneurship well outside the bill's target zone. Oh, yep. Like that operation does. Like fucking, oh, God. And people want to fucking worship. He also pointed out that existing criminal laws already do most of what the act is designed to do, an argument bolstered by the fact that, as recently as this month, Backpage was still facing legal troubles under existing laws that exempt it from 230 protection. The bill's supporters have framed these acts as vital tools. You know you're screwed when they're vital tools.
Yes.
That will allow officials to police websites and allow sex trafficking survivors to sue those websites for facilitating their victimization. This is a disingenuous portrayal, however, because it fails to acknowledge the ways the internet makes it easier for sex workers to do their work safely, while also making it easier for law enforcement to document and gain evidence about illegal activity.
Yes, weird. It's safer to go on the internet than to wait in a back alley.
Mm-hmm.
Strange how that works.
Yes, there's ample evidence, both anecdotal and research, that giving sex workers a way to advertise, vet, and choose clients online make them much safer than they are without an online system.
Right. Yes, yeah, vet and choose.
Because fucking shit, am I going to be able to trust this guy ain't going to murder me because he gets his kinks off murdering hookers?
Wait, I've decided not to. I've decided not to talk to him when he's chasing after me with a chainsaw, screaming, "Bitch, I'm gonna kill you!"
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, if you don't talk to someone online, they'll just yell at you.
Oh wow, your sweet candy pants. I don't know what your real name is or what your real address is, because you went through like 16 different fucking bounced across the globe.
So yeah, it is safer.
Mm-hmm.
But we gotta protect the warmers, and we gotta protect the children.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta protect them sweet people who can't take care of themselves by praying to God. God, pray to Jeebus.
When they're forced onto the streets to find clients, sex workers have fewer advanced safety precautions in place, no ability to effectively pre-screen clients, and no way to ensure that they work in safe, secure locations. And they also have no way to fight back against the pimps.
Wait, you want me to have sex on this, big rack of meat hooks? Meat hooks.
The bill also conflates consensual sex work with non-consensual sex work by doing nothing to differentiate between various kinds of sex work and related content.
Thank you.
Even if the workers are content, even if the workers and content are legally protected by local law. In Nevada, where prostitution is legal in some areas of the state, sex workers have been bracing for the acts. And one Nevada sex worker recently blamed the bill's passage for a new local referendum that's attempting to shut down legal adult brothels.
Well, there's another reason. It's because everyone thinks that every single prostitute ever is this, trapped, girl who hates what she does and wants to kill herself, but she can't because she has to. Some of them actually enjoy it.
Oh, God. This is why the world needs to at least, listen to scum every once in a while, because fucking we've hung out with hookers while they were off the clock.
I've, I've heard stories about. I mean, some are bored by it, some actively enjoy it, and
Some treat it like that's just a fucking job. Others are like, yeah, it's a fun job though.
I know a professional. Well, not okay. This isn't quite.
There was one girl I was talking to like years ago, back during my party years, and she was talking like how this one John paid her under a different name she was using, to just sit there and masturbate above his monitor. So she did this, and she's fucking getting herself off 5 or 6 times. Like, keep going, keep going, keep going, as he's typing. And it turns out that the virus he created, he named after her.
Aww, that's touching.
Yes, it is.
I know a woman. This isn't quite prostitution because she doesn't do sex. She's a professional dominatrix. I've never taken advantage but it's we were talking and she said that she'll have like people clean her house for her if she doesn't feel well. She won't have them do anything to her like rub her feet. She'll clean my house. I don't feel well, and they'll do it too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be considered prostitution. She's being paid to dominate people. Mm-hmm. She's actually really nice, and it's always because people always think of dominatrix, dungeon master. She actually nicer than I am, but it's just that she gets into the dragon lady role, and she's actually quite fun. I've seen her, demonstrate or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's important to note that not differentiating between consensual and non-consensual sex work is part of an integrational legal standard codified in 2000's United Nations Protocol. This protocol was later expounded upon in a 2014 follow-up that examined the issues of consent and asserted that consent is always irrelevant to determining whether the crime of human trafficking has occurred.
She's also said, Jim, that if you ever need a job, she'll pay you to be her dungeon bitch.
Pay me to be her dungeon bitch. She actually wants me to be a dungeon bitch.
Yes.
Oh dear God, what the fuck did I do to get such an honor?
I don't know.
That'll have to be expounded upon. Anyway.
Yes.
However, sex workers have argued vociferously, I'm going to butcher that word, that regardless
vociferously, you fucking tube.
Yes, I am. That regardless of legal precedent, this conflation makes both consensual and non-consensual sex workers less safe. Melissa Mariposa, who responded to the bill by creating an offshore-hosted sex worker-friendly ISP, described the risks to the Daily Dot. If the sex workers lose their storefront and safety tools, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, the predators will come out to play. Yep. Number 2, prostitution is going to be pushed right back on the street and into hotel bars by women who will no longer want to see internet clientele and would rather take the risks of freelancing. This will create more victims than it helps.
Yep.
Exponentially.
And you want to help the non-consensual ones. I mean, I agree. Those people have hard, lives and all, but you're just going to create it even worse for fucking them.
Yeah, because now they're going to
sleeping at night.
Because now it's going to be harder for fucking law enforcement to find them because they're not going to be ballsy enough to put it online anymore and just dig deeper and find new code words and all kinds of shit.
Yep, and then plenty of lives will be lost, and they will sleep, and the government will sleep soundly at night because they had no idea, because they've never been out of the streets.
Mm-hmm. There's also plenty of research indicating that online avenues help officials do their work more effectively. A 2018 State Department report found that over a 7-year period, the number of identified victims of sex trafficking worldwide increased from fewer than 42,000 in 2011 to 100,000 in 2017, because you're able to track it a little bit better if they're able to do some shit online.
Yes. Whereas if they're not, you're not going to know how many, and it's going to be easy for people to traffic in people.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot more toddlers raped. Enjoy,
Yeah.
government. You've just caused millions of toddlers to get raped.
Enjoy it, politicians.
Mm-hmm. The task of identifying and effectively prosecuting sex traffickers continues to be challenging, however. In 2017, according to the same state report, U.S. law enforcement agencies indicated a combined total of 1,795 trafficking investigations. Of these, the Department of Justice initiated just 282 federal investigations involving human trafficking and ultimately opened just 266 prosecutions for charges predominantly involving sex trafficking. That's because we only have so much staff that can take care of it all.
Yeah.
Overall, of 553 defendants who were prosecuted on a range of smuggling charges, including sex trafficking, just 471. That's actually a decent conviction rate.
Yep.
Sex traffickers were convicted with sentences ranging from 1 month to life in prison.
Yes, and which aren't like sex traffickers some of the people that like get murdered in prison?
Yeah, they usually are.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. Hey, I'm in prison for killing 30 people, and this guy's even more scummy than I am.
Yeah,
And I'm in prison for life. Well, hell, if I kill him,
I'm a hero, and I just don't improve. And my situation doesn't even get worse.
yeah, right, yeah. It's like the guy that killed Jeffrey Dahmer. I still say he was killed for becoming a Christian, not killed for being, cannibal. Because I'm depraved.
Yeah, these statistics illustrate just how hard it is to effectively prosecute sex trafficking on an individual level. The solution provided by the acts, therefore, is to attack websites facilitating trafficking, despite the fact that they also arguably make it easier for authorities to track down perpetrators rather than empowering the law to more effectively prosecute the sex traffickers themselves.
Okay, so you attack websites that and arrest these traffickers publicly and shut down the websites. Well, then the other traffickers realize, shit, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going undercover.
Mm-hmm.
And you get even worse.
All this explains why a coalition of sex workers, advocates, sex trafficking survivors, and even Department of Justice have all strongly opposed the idea of the bill as an effective deterrent to sex trafficking.
Agreed.
Yeah, it is not. It's going to make it a lot worse.
Yes.
The bill arguably endangers rather than helps at least one class of sex workers, adults who want to do their work consensually and safely. And if we consider the increased amount of transparency around sex work that will be lost when sites like Backpage are shut down, it's also arguable that non-consensual victims of sex trafficking will become less visible and more vulnerable by being shunted away from the visible parts of the web into the deep web and dark corners of real life.
It also bears, and we have to bear this again, is that for people who maybe aren't scum and who don't know, yes, there are consensual prostitutes that actually want to do the work, and some like it, some just whatever. But there are consensual. Because there's a media stereotype that all prostitutes, oh, I'm doing this against my will type thing.
That's Law and Order for you.
Yeah.
And remember how well Law and Order paints gamers.
Yeah.
I leveled up. God, that was so fucking retarded. That was even more retarded than me, and I rode the short bus. Oh, God.
Well, yeah, so there are people who legitimately do want to do their work.
All in all, the bills are poised to put multiple vulnerable populations at much higher risk. Despite this, Congress overwhelmingly voted to pass both bills into law, which may have more to do with the larger moment of backlash against tech culture and its recent breaches of trust and moral obligation.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. The Trust and Safety Council has dictated that we pass a bill that's going to maim, legitimate sex workers and fucking keep the ones that are being held captive fucking even more hidden. Good job.
So it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Just like that bill I mentioned earlier about the fucking, paper shredding act being used against a fisherman.
Yep. Welcome to
because
hell.
and it wasn't that he was shredding papers. Oh no, it was the fact that a couple fish grew a centimeter or half a centimeter on their boat ride from where the spot check was to the shoreline where they picked up the evidence. And now they're using the paper shredding act again. It's a knee-jerk reaction. These knee-jerk bills all need fucking repealed.
Welcome to hell. We don't trust the tech, so we're just gonna punish them and kill innocent people.
As the co-sponsor, Senator Richard Blumenthal put it, rather than the specific goals of these particular bills. Then again, the final versions of both bills are far more sweeping than they originally were intended to be. Well, yeah, that's usually all things that Congress passes. They need to pass bills that repeal everything, almost.
Yep. But
for 2 decades, the internet has functioned in accordance with Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act. Because of Section 230, courts have a clear foundation for educating free speech on the internet. And crucially, because of Section 230, website owners and servers hosts aren't constantly mired in endless lawsuits because someone said something inflammatory on one of their sites. Without this clause exempting websites from liability for the actions of their users, most websites simply couldn't afford to exist. They would have to perpetually ward off potential legal action based on the unpredictable behavior of their users by devoting endless resources to moderating everything their users did, by simply banning user activities altogether, or by throwing millions of dollars at litigation costs.
Which is what the government doesn't understand how the internet works still.
Yeah. The vast majority of the internet as we know it, all but a handful of websites run by tech companies with massive resources, which arguably couldn't have reached that status without Section 230's protections, would be unable to function under this kind of pressure. Well, duh.
Yep.
That's how you get a fucking monopoly run by Facebook and fucking YouTube and fucking Google.
Well, even Facebook and YouTube couldn't exist without
they
this
couldn't
section.
originally exist, but now that they have the money, they can. And they can just monopolize everyone out and be the only ones making money, like, good call me scum.
True, but every empire will fall.
Enter FOSTA SETSA, which create enforceable loopholes in websites if they appear to be allowing prostitution advertisements. That sounds specific, but it's not.
No.
FOSTA, a bill originally passed in February by the House, was initially set up to focus solely on sites like Backpage, that is, sites that seemed designed just to give space to sex workers. Remember, kids, porn is banned on Tumblr now. The only good reason to go there.
Well,
But by the time,
and your account as well, where there's the story of Wargo. That's a good reason to go there.
But by the time it had made it to the House floor, the bill gained broader, sterner provisions borrowed from the Senate version of the bill, SESTA, provisions that included all websites. This then ballooned into a bill combo that wound up headed to President Trump's desk for signing.
Yep.
Doesn't that sound like Obamacare? So Trump has effectively signed Obamacare back in the thing. Lovely. The FF has called it a bad bill that turned into a worse bill, then was rushed through votes in both houses of Congress. Yep, that's fucking Obamacare.
Well, because if you voted no, then oh my god, then people will shame you. Oh, you want the prostitutes to die. It's like no, you want the prostitutes to die.
Yeah, the government definitely passed a bill that will make more hookers die. Joy.
Yep.
We'll have a nice little string of dead hookers like we haven't seen before. Enjoy.
Well, you haven't seen before. I live in LA.
Oh, that's true. Instead of directly targeting websites known to facilitate sex trafficking, the Act's hybrid essentially sets up a template for broad-based censorship across the web. This means websites will have to decide whether to over-police their platforms for potential prostitution advertisements or to under-police them so they can maintain a know-nothing stance, which would likely be a very tricky claim to prove in court.
This is less about porn and more about even like online dating sites. I mean, because this profile sounds like it wants they want prostitution banned.
The bill's language penalizes any website that promote or facilitate prostitution, allows authorities to pursue websites for knowingly assisting, facilitating, and supporting sex trafficking, which is vague enough to threaten everything from certain cryptocurrencies to porn videos to sites for perfectly legal escort services. In fact, one of the bill's main supporters, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, is arguably using the bill as a path to attack consensual adult pornography, which is characterized as violent, degrading, and a public health crisis.
It's only violent if it's done right. I read a thing where women were made into snake women and they roasted their husbands in tribute to their snake goddess. That's violent and done right and hot. I don't think most people are reading the type of thing I'm reading.
No. None of this actually prevents sex work advertising from being created or posted. It just puts the onus on the website owners to self-police. SESA's provisions allow for legal action against any website to be knowingly assisting, supporting, or facilitating advertisements for sex work. That means everyone and anyone from Twitter to eBay to your uncle's motorcycle trading forum. Yep. I'm selling a motorcycle. That's prostitution. What?
But
you're
how?
Using the code word lingo.
Yes. Have you seen the FBI's list of youth slang? I think it was the FBI's list of youth slang. Oh God, it's amazing.
And people mock it all the time.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I think it must be read at least once on here.
Predictably, the bill's passage left many websites scrambling to figure out how to adjust. 2 days after the passage by the Senate, Craigslist removed its entire personal section from its platform, citing the difficulty of adhering to the new changes to the law if it continued to allow open posting on its dating section.
Wow.
The move left Craigslist users quizzing one another for alternative personal sites and sent some into the activity category with the wink-wink requests of activity partners.
So now you're going to go on to websites that you don't know and you can't trust, who may be stalking or selling your personal information.
Mm-hmm.
At least Craigslist you can trust. God damn it. You know, I hate it when you actually have a point, because I don't agree with anything you say ever because it's you. But I hate it when you actually have a point about the government.
Mm-hmm. Another long-standing escort service, City Vibe, which tacitly hosted sex workers advertising under the guise of legal services like escorting and massages, shut down altogether, reportedly without refunding money to sex workers who had been posting ads there.
I saw something funny. I was looking on. I saw ads for an escort service. Get this, for the 2000 Republican convention. I don't know if there were any names named. They might just be like random senators who, you know, got it on and then you know went back to their home, and their wife wondered what their cigarette burns on their ass was. Oh, I just say it on a cigarette while talking to Dick Cheney. Sorry about that. But I love the hypocrisy of the anti-prostitution people hiring escort services.
Mm-hmm. The furry-centric dating website Pounce.org was another casualty of the bill combo. When it shut down overnight a week after it passed, the website left a lengthy note explaining that specific language in the bills undermined Section 230 in a way that made sites operated by small organizations like Pounce.org much riskier to operate. Well, yeah, you're
Of
going to a
course,
real niche center there for furries.
because of course, Jim, all furries are evil fetish people who want to have sex with dogs and wear diapers,
Yeah, of course, it's always the same.
which is something Medicare has been guilty of saying. I mean, he
Yeah.
has a great voice, but I'm like, yeah, no. But of course, but now these furry guys are gonna go, or girls or whatever, are going to go into, the more seedy things and actually become those people.
Dive straight into the dark web so no one knows what they're doing, and that's when the real danger strikes.
And that's when the predators strike, as you say.
Mm-hmm. We don't promote prostitution or sex trafficking, the site's moderators wrote. We're a personal site for the furry community. The problem is, with limited resources and a small volunteer staff, our risk for operating the site has now significantly increased.
I don't know any furries. I do know someone who finds like women in fur coats attractive, but I don't think that's quite furry.
In addition, Reddit banned multiple subreddits in response, including R escorts, R male escorts, R hookers, and R sugar daddy.
Huh.
Redditors at the forums, like R sex workers, rapidly began redefining and re-articulating their rules in order to keep their own communities safe from the crackdown. Meanwhile, sex workers who had been relying on jobs coming from various websites were left grappling with a complicated litany of precautions to take in order to continue trying to conduct their business safely in the shadow of the new law.
And it sucks for them because, of course, they're not people.
Yeah.
It's not like they can, even admit publicly to what's happening because they're not people.
Yeah. Mother Bird also reported in the wake of the passage, Google began reviewing and deleting content directly off Drive accounts of several of its users. Though the tech giant has long-standing policy against stashing sexually explicit images and videos on its popular cloud storage system, it appears to have begun a proactive sweep of its users' accounts in response to the bill.
Hey, cracking down on everything.
Similarly, in late March, Microsoft abruptly announced a drastic change to its policies and enforcement of those policies that effectively scoured many of its services, including Skype and its cloud storage products, of any adult content. This drew complaints from Skype users who feared that Microsoft's auto deletion filters would ban any Skype user who happened to be involved in a consensual sexual activity on using the platform. Well, duh.
Yay.
Enjoy.
Enjoy your censorship, people.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you wanted. This is what you're going to get. This is what happens when you start complaining about every little thing, and then people actually listen to you, and then you realize, oh, God, I didn't want this. No. Too late, little weasel.
It should go without saying that it's possible to process pornographic material without being connected to a prostitution ring. But again, the vague terms of the bill mean that the only choice for most websites in terms of how they approach policing user content lies between strategic inaction or preemptive overreaction.
I would go for strategic inaction myself. I don't, but then again, strategic inaction could also bite you in the ass because if there's something shady going on and you can't actually admit or do anything to stop the shadiness, because to do something to stop the shadiness would admit you actually do know what's going on. My head hurts.
Yep. That makes it even, that's the fucking catch-22 of them all.
My head hurts like fuck.
In cases like Google and Craigslist, preemptive overreaction seems to be the preferred model. While neither Google nor Microsoft explicitly tied its sudden censorship and policy enforcement to the passage of the bills, the timing was hard to ignore.
Oh no, it's all coincidence, wink wink.
Mm-hmm. Internet freedom advocates have argued strenuously against the bills. One of the biggest fears surrounding the bill combo is that it could create room for more bills that attempt to create even more exemptions in Section 230. This isn't an alarmist cry. In recent years, prosecutors and litigants have been arguing for gunning hard for Section 230, and courts have responded with a strikingly high number of rulings in which they found that safe harbor protections did not apply in specific cases. This trend has given rise to fears that the primary law protecting the internet as we know it is under attack. Well, enjoy, fucking, it's coming from all sides here.
I need about 20 beers now.
Mm-hmm.
This is just depressing.
Legal experts and internet advocates have strongly opposed any law that alters the framework set up by Section 230. We've already seen that weakening any part of it yields immediate self-censorship and preemptive deletion on the part of several websites, and this is before lawsuits have even entered into the picture.
Well, okay, granted, this is almost a year old, so I don't know about the what's happening in the meantime. Perhaps nothing has come of it. In fact, I'm almost sure nothing has come of it because I haven't heard anything about this. But it still gives me a huge headache.
I remember we didn't really hear anything about these fucking labels going under, and most people won't even watch this or read the articles we have.
The label went under quite recently, which is why yeah. I think I heard something about No Colors and Moribund having trouble with their PayPal, but I didn't link it to Elegy because Elegy happened, 13 days ago. So
without Section 230 protections, websites would essentially be forced to hedge resources against unforeseen lawsuits based on unpredictable activity on part of their users. The vast majority, and oh God, welcome to the shitstorm, kiddies.
Welcome to hell.
The vast majority of the internet's infrastructure comprises websites and platforms that lack resources to handle this measure of liability.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you really think like some local swap meet online is capable of handling things like this?
And what about a website like Gab that just starts up and like they got to keep going to different providers and shit? I'm certain that there ain't a lot of hookers on there, but the threat of hookers might be why they keep getting deplatformed.
But I mean, like, local swap meets that, because they do swap meets online and things like that now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not eBay. They don't have the dollars incorporate, in corporate backing to combat this. So if they get charged for potentially high, housing prostitutes, they're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Those websites or parts of them would simply be shuttered overnight, as we've seen with Craigslist personal sections, or would be presumably do away with many spaces where their users can interact and have a voice. This bill jeopardizes not only classified ad sites, but also dating apps, discussion forums, social media sites, and any service that hosts user-generated content. Remember him? Gotta love that damn corporate media telling you everything to think at all times of the day.
Nobody gets to have a voice.
Mm-hmm. Smaller platforms will also face the real risk that a single lawsuit could put them out of business.
Yep.
There's ample historical precedent for this argument because it's why Section 230 was established to begin with. In Zirin versus American Online, the first major federal court case to discuss Section 230, the court's decision made it clear that there was a dire need to protect websites from impossible burden of endless legal threats. Remember, we live in a world where, God, you give a girl a wink and you could be fucking and go to trial for attempted rape just because you winked at her. You're facing impossible burdens to prove anymore.
We live in a world where frogs are racist.
Mm-hmm.
This is not quite what I imagined the future would be when I was like, 12, and I was thinking, wow, in 13 years, this is not quite how I imagined the future to be.
Uh-huh. Whenever one was displeased with the speech of another party conducted over an interactive computer service, the offended party could simply notify the relevant service provider, claiming the information would be legally defamatory. In light of the vast amount of speech communicated through interactive computer services, these notices could produce an impossible burden for the service providers, who would be faced with ceaseless choices of suppressing controversial speech or sustaining prohibitive liability.
And of course, they're going to choose suppressing controversial speech because that's the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets
The
solved
government
that way.
is the last boss here. We gotta get some shit repealed.
Whereas if you stay with prohibitive liability, you're going to get sued and put out of business that way. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well don't.
This is why many activists and internet freedom advocates have charged the acts with terminating free speech. As for Section 230, making it susceptible to more exemptions would render the whole clause useless as a governing tool.
Yep.
You ever sit there and think that maybe Mark Zuckerberg was forced into a corner as damned if you do, damned if you don't, and because he's left waiting, fuck it, we'll just start censoring all the right-wing shit on top of all this because shit like this gets passed?
Oh yeah, but of course he's a good scapegoat.
He always has been.
He has said that he won't ban Holocaust deniers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a good scapegoat. He is, blame Zuckerberg, blame I don't even know how much fucking control he has over the site anymore.
This is one group that does stand to gain a significant amount from this bill package. A network of corporate giants ranging from Hollywood studios to Silicon Valley behemoths. Prior to the bill's passage in the Senate, a parade of celebrities, including Amy Schumer and Seth Meyers, filmed a PSA to promote it as a tool to fight against sex trafficking. Disney threw its weight behind the bills in a letter to lawmakers supporting the bill.
How much
the
of
internet, so that way people go back to movie theaters.
How much? Well, yes, that too, but also how much of that is getting behind something that they didn't actually read, and like once they read, like, oh god, did we actually support that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like something to get behind. Yes, you want to protect sex trafficking victims and all that. So it sounds like something, but read it.
Yeah. And 20th Century Fox followed suit. While plenty of well meaning individuals might have sincerely wanted to stop sex trafficking, as the name of the bill suggests, the motivations for the corporate entities that chose to back the bills are more suspect.
It's okay. This reminds me of Al Gore was talking about stopping global warming. Al Gore is a known oil speculator, and
Mm-hmm.
one of his concerts, Live Earth, which featured the worst Metallica performance I've ever heard. And I've heard some bad Metallica shows. That Live Earth performance, which they only did 3 songs, and you can guess what 3 songs they did because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a metal show. But those 3 songs were the worst I'd ever heard. Anyway, it was sponsored by Dow Chemical, which has been known for which has been known for pretty nasty oil spills in the past. But of course, people flocked to it because they didn't actually do the research. So I'm guessing I don't like Amy Schumer, but I'm guessing part of it was oh, this says stop the sex traffickers. I want this, but they didn't bother reading it. So yes, well-meaning, useful idiots is basically what they all are.
Mm-hmm. The FF argues that the reason for Hollywood studio interest in the acts is that it lays the groundwork for the industry to institute automatic censorship and filtering against user speech. Kind of like how they went out and tried erasing all those people giving the new Star Trek TV show bad reviews. Remember whenever that was a thing?
Yes.
The purpose of this would be to simultaneously crack down on any potential copyright threats, namely the use of automated copyright bots, while corralling users' innovation and creativity through channels that are controlled and monitored by pre-existing companies.
Which
In
of
other
course
words,
they still won't win. I mean, even if you do all this, you're still not going to win, guys.
yeah. In other words, the long-term goal would be to cordon off the Wild West of the internet by dividing former free speech zones into spaces controlled by monetized, corporatized entities. A system that would also favor monopolization and unfair competition by industry giants over small internet startups.
I like the internet. Even as horrible as it is now with all its social media drama, I still like the internet. I don't want to see it dumbed down even more. I miss the real Wild West days, which Jim talked about.
Oh God, yes, so many glorious sites everywhere.
But
And now they're all dead.
we still have some good sites and still have some good.
Yeah. The tech giant Oracle lent its support to the act in a letter opining that any new startup could access virtually unlimited technology, and further argued that good technology companies were all about data monetization and user based targeting. So selling people's fucking
Yeah, pretty
uh
much.
all your the only thing that's so you're trying to corral them all into this area where all your data is shared. Welcome to China's social credit program.
Or welcome to China, period.
Mm-hmm.
Social credit or no social credit, welcome to China, period.
Not blindly running platforms with no control of the content. It's important to note that at one point, tech giants like Facebook and Amazon were lobbying against these acts through the interest groups, the Internet Association, but in the final months before the bill vote, they backed off, switching from a position to support after it was changed to focus on platforms that provide knowing assistance to trafficking ventures.
Yeah, and you can't say you're against that because it's sort of like why they got Nixon in, because a lot of people thought that if they got a government in, that they would look soft on communism, so they elected Nixon in. You don't want to you don't want to look soft on the Vietnam War. You don't want to look soft on sex traffic. So I mean, and that's where they got him, by wording it a certain way, such as pro-life. Pro-life is another way of wording it a certain. Well, what are you going to be, pro-death?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's how they get you. They word it in a way that it's very hard to object without being labeled, evil. Whereas I can object because I don't care if I'm labeled evil.
I'm already evil. I'm the satanic baby killer of Jeanette.
Yes, even though you're not satanic.
Never have been.
Yes, which I, of course, make fun of.
Similar to their strange, glaring silence in the face of renewed attacks on net neutrality, many tech industry leaders seem to be willing to compromise on issues that will ultimately debilitate their much smaller cohorts on the internet.
Which they're
Small
fine
dating
with.
sites, Craigslist, Reddit, and other user driven nonprofit Wikipedia, which has stridently opposed the bill package, have made it clear they can't afford to suffer the long term effects of the bill, at least not without drastically overhauling their sites and everything about the way those sites operate.
Say what you want about Wikipedia. I like that they're consistent. I mean, say what you want about Wikipedia and its editing and all that, but at least they're consistent about freedom of speech.
It's
It's
possible that,
it's the users that aren't, but it's the staff themselves.
yeah,
But the users themselves aren't, but the staff themselves basically say, "Go to hell."
yeah. It's possible that the courts could play a role in overruling all or part of the acts. The EFF is currently challenging the bill's legality in court on behalf of three different plaintiffs. One is a digital library, one a masseuse, and one an activist, whose various livelihoods are all jeopardized by the bill. But unless the act is overturned, either by court rulings or by new legislation from Congress that doesn't seem to be forthcoming, and never will be, because it's always better to take away rights than to give more,
Welcome to Congress.
those smaller sites might not have a choice. Whether or not Section 230 is ultimately weakened overall because of the acts, it seems clear that we're in a moment where many of the freedoms and protections we've previously assumed were woven into the fabric of the web are being systematically unraveled, challenged, and overridden by powerful special interest groups. If this keeps happening without abatement or countering, we will inevitably be faced with a drastically different, far less democratic version of the internet. Duh.
Oh, unless you go to the dark web, which
Yeah.
just good privacy software.
Yeah. You need the best.
Yeah, and don't buy anything.
And as the immediate changes to the infrastructure of the web in the wake of the FOSTA SESTA indicate, it may happen more swiftly than we think. And they have a little link here to listen to more.
Yeah, so be on the lookout, people.
All right, so Tumblr bans all pornographic content. Tumblr has announced that they're banning all pornographic content from their website. Beginning December 17th, pornographic content will no longer be allowed on their website. The new decision comes weeks after popular artists focusing primarily on adult content were being suddenly banned from the platform. In the midst of the discussion of adult content on Tumblr, the company's app was also removed from iTunes Store due to its adult content. This is likely a decision to crack down on pornographic content entirely so that they can get their app reinstated.
Gotta think of the children. Think of the
Mm-hmm.
children.
And they go over more points there.
Of course, why are you letting 5-year-old Tommy have a fucking app at the first?
No, we've been at this for a fucking while.
If you don't know how to have your kids search the internet safely, then maybe you shouldn't let them be on the internet. Oh god, I think I just had an aneurysm.
Yes,
Oh, I fucking hate idiots.
they're all fucking idiots.
I just I'm too stupid to actually watch what my kids doing, so I'm just gonna fucking. And if you don't want your kid to, you were talking about, playing Grand Theft Auto. teach them how, look, this is bad, and this is how you don't do something.
But it's not the right screaming blasphemy, it's the left screaming misogyny, racism, sexism, whatever.
And it's the right screaming, gotta help the children, and it's the left screaming sexism.
They both agree on one thing: censor the internet.
You people are ruining fun for all of us.
Mm-hmm. So, before you sit there and think, oh, we just got to go after this thing or that thing to fix everything, remember, it's usually a bit more multi-tiered than that, and you got to fucking work. We're talking about a multi-staged boss, a 4-stager at least. Or we just got to keep fucking picking away and figuring out new strategies to deal with the new forms that keep plopping out of its fucking eldritch godlike fucking nerves.
And before you go off and say we have to ban this, ban that, think of the consequences for banning things.
Because it's eventually the shit you want that's going to get banned in return.
Yes, and by that time, we're all going to be so tired of you, we're going to welcome it. Just to
and you're not
spite
going to
you.
get any help to fucking ward it off.
Nope, no help from us.
Because you already fucked us over.
Yes, so.
And remember, as you take away more hobbies and interests from people, that devolves more time into other pursuits, such as me fucking you over in return for fucking me over.
Yes. And, yeah. So basically, don't be a pussy.
Yeah.
I think that's the lesson here. Just don't be a pussy.
Yep. Otherwise, you'll get more of this knee-jerk response from fucking government, and fucking government keeps doubling down on fucking stupid shit, and then has to. Oh god.
Oh yeah, and fuck metal sucks.
Oh yeah, fuck them. They're bastards.
Yes, they are.
Well, that's about it for today. I just had to go over this. Show you that there's a nice little wide plethora of fucked up shit going on. And, go ahead and call me a conspiracy nut job, but just look at the shit happening around you.
And we thank you for watching. You can, if you'd like to comment on the show, you can do so on the YouTube page or email cosmicgodsdie@gmail.com. Facebook is Swine Brothers and Twitter is SwineBros666. For the gym, I am Elliot. We will do a normal show quite soon.
Everyone can just fucking sit there and let their bearings recover from this.